Hey, what's going on, you guys? Hey, welcome back to yet another year with iTrack. Happy New Year's to everybody that's been tapping in with me all 2025. This is the first day of the year of 2026, and you know what? It's all love, it's all positivity, and we're gonna make this year one of the best ones yet, big time. This episode will be 2025's recap of all the wildest, weirdest things that went down. Hope you guys enjoy it. As usual, make sure to smash that like button for me, smash the subscribe button, and let's go ahead and get right into it.
So if the movie Shazam was Sinbad never existed, then what is this? And if it was never Berenstain Bears, but rather Berenstain Bears, then what is this? And if Jiffy peanut butter was never a thing and it's always been Jif, then what is this? If Fruit of the Loom never had a cornucopia, then what is this? So all of this evidence comes from a creator on here who's been cleaning out his grandfather's house who just passed away. And as he was posting all these videos, I saw Mama Matrix, who's like a bigger like kind of conspiracy creator on here, repost these clips as well. And the initial caption, she had tagged him in it. And when I went to go click on his page, it had been banned. And I found it looks like he has another page up now. But it's interesting how like he was silent and he started speaking the truth. Because Selena Gomez was never wrong when she said everything is not what it seems. And I'm keep telling y'all, you got to question everything, because what the
Finally, some irrefutable proof. People love to throw out scenarios and all kinds of conspiracies, but they have no proof to back it up. We are definitely living in the Matrix, man. Let me know what you think about it.
Started doing the test tube babies back in the 70s, I think 1978. But I saw two of the test tube babies and they both looked the same. That's what blew my mind. But you gotta realize they don't have any seeds, no souls. Anytime they grow a baby in an incubator or they clone one or they do manipulations, there's no soul. They're soulless. Do you know what that means? That's like MK Ultra. I can send you out there to kill all these people and you won't feel a thing. You won't feel a thing because you have no soul. You don't reincarnate. No karma, nothing. It's just a body, a carrier. Say I clone you right now and you walk out there and you kill a whole lot of people and the cops kill you. That's it. And nobody cares because you can create another one in the lab.
24 months, there will be not one person in this room that will be able to tell when they watch a human in a video if that human even exists, let alone if it was generated by AI or generated by your hands in Adobe, thus rendering you to having to make a choice that you either trust nothing or you realize whether I, Gary, as a human am modeling this hoodie or whether it's an AI version of me that doesn't exist. We're in a place where every video on the internet, you will not believe what the person is saying because you're not sure if they actually said it. Because you know that there's technology now that allows people to make videos of me saying egregious things that I've never said. AI is an insanely enormous wave that is coming right at you. This AI one, this is not the iPhone, this is not social media. This is much more internet. This is big. This is the rest of your life. And professionally, it's going to impact you, but even personally as a human being, all of you have one of two options. Option one, you are going to put your head in the sand and your overall strategy is, or two, you are going to grab a surfboard and you will ride the largest wave that has come at us since the internet itself, and you will be highly successful and you will enjoy the ride.
Now, if you've been watching my channel for any period of time, you've noticed I put a whole lot of clues, hints, and facts all throughout the video so that you can see AI is here and it's not going anywhere. And we will definitely have a new way of life. So hopefully you've been making that pivot.
This is why everybody thinks that tomorrow or Wednesday will be the end of the world. So this South African pastor had a vision and a dream. He had a dream where God appeared to him and told him that he is coming soon. In some of his visions, he could hear the sound of the 4 trumpets. He relates this to the book of Revelations, where trumpets are being heard or sounded before the end of the world. And people believe this to be real because the dates September 23rd and 24th align with the Jewish New Year, which some Christians associate with the end of time prophecy. Now, in his visions, if this all comes true, he warns of a demon that will come down just like in the movie This Is the End, chase and consume the remaining humans that have not been raptured. So that's all of you sinners. The pastor also mentioned these dates specifically were given to him by Jesus and God during his visions and dreams to warn all of us to prepare to be raptured. So if you haven't asked God for forgiveness for your sins, probably now's a good time to do it. But what do you guys think about this?
It sounds like it might be capped to me because if he is following the Bible, I think in the Bible somewhere it says no man knows the hour, the date, the time. There won't be any hints given. None of that. It'll just be a surprise, like that. So I'm thinking it's more capped than anything else. But let me know what you think about it.
Locals couldn't believe what they were seeing. A man standing in the middle of the street, frozen mid-step. One leg forward, one behind, like he was walking, but just stuck. He didn't sway, didn't blink, didn't even flinch when people walked by. It was like someone had hit pause on his body. Naturally, someone pulled out their phone, and the video took off. Some say it was a stunt or a muscle disorder. Others are calling it a glitch in the Matrix. A tiny hiccup in our so-called reality.
Nah, I think he was on a mission for some drugs. That's kind of what it looks like to me.
2027, the year everything changes. We have talked about the idea that open contact is about to happen, is imminent. Within 2 years, they will be officially introduced to your society. At first, most likely hybrids, Pleiadians, and then others.
Massive breaking news from Göbekli Tepe. They found a human statue in one of the walls yesterday. They completely took it out very carefully and they took it to the Schönlerfa Museum. And I will show you Göbekli Tepe in a little bit. The day before we arrived, yesterday, when they found the human statue, the Princess of Japan was actually here at Göbekli Tepe for a ceremony that was commemorating the finishing of the excavations there at Building D. I am currently at Göbekli Tepe, and so this is where they found the human statue yesterday that they took immediately to the museum after they took it out of the wall. But you can see that they're clearly still working really hard at the renovations, reconstructions, the cleanup, continuing, and up on the hill they're started to excavate as well. So on top of the hill they think that those are the settlements and that they were overlooking the temple of Göbekli Tepe back in the day, like what, 11,000 years ago?
The real reason why cartoon characters wear white gloves is way more disturbing than you think. So everybody's familiar with this very specific style of white glove that a ton of classic cartoon characters wear, but not many people really question why they're wearing the gloves. It's just how it always has been. Unless you're the character Bobby from an extremely goofy movie who jokingly asks this exact question.
Do you ever wonder why we're always, like, wearing gloves?
Yeah. That's just a funny little gag, but it's a good point. Why do they wear the gloves? Well, a lot of people will tell you it's so the character's hands can stand out from their darker bodies, which made it easier for animators to make them more expressive and to better convey the things that they were doing with their hands. And while that's technically true, it's only half of the story, and it leaves out a very important and very disturbing detail. Cartoon characters wear white gloves so that their hands stand out against their black bodies because blackface minstrel actors from the 1920s and 30s wore white gloves so that their hands would stand out against the black paint on their faces. Because many early cartoon characters like Mickey Mouse, Felix the Cat, Bimbo the Dog, and Bosco were blackface minstrel characters. That's right, Mickey Mouse was originally intended to be a parody or an homage to vaudeville blackface actors. You see, in the early days of cartoon animation, before TV existed or they were even being regularly played in movie theaters, animators like Winsor McCay, creator of Little Nemo, would take their cartoons on tour with vaudeville shows and literally project them on stage on a screen. They would even sometimes interact with their animations. And the most popular part of these vaudeville touring shows was the blackface minstrel act. And so the animators, trying to grab the audience that was there to see the blackface minstrel shows, would pattern their characters off of those blackface actors. So the cartoon characters would take on the physical traits of these blackface actors, like the dark black skin with the white or red mouth and eyes, and also the personality traits and tropes of blackface minstrelsy, like the mischievous trickster character, which was very common in blackface and was also what most cartoon characters in the 1930s and 40s were. This minstrel style of cartoon character carried over from the vaudeville era of animation to the film era of animation with characters like Mickey Mouse and Felix the Cat. And after a while, blackface minstrel shows obviously fell out of favor and people just kind of forgot that they were like that. So the style of the character became solely associated with cartoons. And that's how we ended up with generations of these cartoon characters with these inexplicable white gloves. And again, many people will tell you, no, it's nothing to do with blackface. It's so that their hands can stand out from their bodies, but that's just not historically accurate. And here's the thing, I love animation like many people, and I love many of these characters. I'm not trying to get anything canceled. I just think it's important to be aware of these things. And real quick, if you like my videos and you want to see more in-depth writing from me, you can do that here.
Now, I definitely agree. I think it's important to know the history on everything so that we're not living in any kind of ignorance.
You can predict how long somebody's going to live by their grip strength. It's crazy, but there's an interesting scientific study I just read, a 40-year study. The current findings suggest that having good grip strength and a long-lived mother may indicate physiological reserve and inherited resilience to aging processes. So it's two things. Interesting, the study says how long your father's side lived is not as important. Very interesting. So get your grip strength up.
Did you know that the Ouija board actually named itself? So the woman that created the Ouija board was using it one day and just straight up asked the board what it wanted to be called, and it spelled out the word Ouija. Oui meaning yes in French, and ja meaning yes in German. So a lot of people interpret this to mean that the board was identifying itself as a sort of spiritual being that kind of transcends all languages and knows all things, like omnipotent, if you will. So this woman, her name is Helen, she takes the board in to get a patent for it, but the guys at the patent office just laugh her off. The clerk there pretty much said, "Look, lady, I don't know you, you don't know me, but if your silly little board can spell my name out, I'll give you the patent for it." So according to legend, Helen sat the board down, put the planchette on top, and the Ouija board spelled this man's name out in front of everyone. And that is how we got the patent for the Ouija board. Now, the spookiness doesn't end there, because the board would be manufactured by two men before it fell into the hands of William Fuld. And William truly believed in the powers of the Ouija board because he himself used it all the time. He recognized that the spirit attached to the board, or whatever he was communicating with, had some type of special knowledge, so he used it to ask for direction. Well, one day, according to William, the board told him that he should go and buy a second factory in Baltimore so that Ouija boards could continue to be mass produced on a larger scale. And he did just that. William bought the second factory to manufacture Ouija boards, but sometime later, he was supervising a project on the roof of the building when he fell from the third-story building, landing on the street outside, and a piece of his broken off rib pierced him in the heart. Now, William did not die. Not right away, at least. He was able to make it to the hospital, where he told his family to promise that they would never sell the brand Ouija. He didn't want anyone outside of the family to handle the production of Ouija boards. It was literally his dying wish. But 39 years later, to the date of William's tragic passing, his family sold the patent of the Ouija board to the Parker brothers. Now, the Parker brothers were based out of Salem, Massachusetts, and they spent a hefty $1 million back in 1966 on the Ouija board patent, which is actually the most that anyone has ever paid for a game patent. Interestingly enough, and a little bit of a side note here, Ouija is actually the only other quote-unquote board game, if you can even call it that, to ever outsell Monopoly. But the Parker brothers would eventually go out of business, and the Ouija board would then start being produced by Hasbro, who still owns the rights to it today. While I've never actually played with the Ouija board because I'm a little bit of a scaredy cat when it comes to stuff like that, I did actually find an antique Ouija board in the drywall of my bedroom closet, and I've talked about that here before. But I've also heard horror stories from people that I know that have played with Ouija boards, and I can tell you guys those if you want to hear them. Otherwise, if you've had a scary experience with the Ouija board, please send them to me at this email, because I'd love to read through them and potentially share them here with my followers if that's something you guys are interested in.
Now, see, if he would have asked God about what to do, I'm pretty sure God would have told him not to do any of that, right? So whatever was on the other side of that Ouija board giving him these instructions and these answers, they knew exactly what was going to happen. It sounds like it didn't even turn out well, because they end up selling the building, and this, that, and the third went on. So it's a lesson to be learned in that if you're paying attention.
Oh, que porra é essa?
Now, the guy who tattooed the word crud on his forehead to win $250,000, only to learn it was a prank.
The first listener to tattoo the letters KRUD on their forehead would win a $250,000 prize. I lost my job because of this. My girlfriend broke up with me. My dating life's been a shambles. You know, I wanted to use this money to help save our home. The biggest thing about it is the tattoo laser removal surgery that I'm going to need to have.
Yes,
the
sir.
procedures. I can't afford that. And from what I understand, the research that I've done, it may not even be possible to remove all of this without scarring.
This is David Bell, and in 2019, a local radio station named KRUD announced that the first person to tattoo their letters onto their forehead would win $250,000. When David heard about this, he was really excited at the time because his dad had recently gotten fired from his job, and their family was at great risk of losing their house. When David called the radio station and was informed that the contest was completely real, he immediately rushed to the nearest tattoo parlor. Since the radio station even had a website for the contest, Mr. Bell figured it had to be real. But when he dashed over to the station to claim his money, everyone there just started laughing at him. And it turns out, at the very bottom of the website, there was a link that led to an April Fool's page. But since Mr. Bell had vision problems, he hadn't seen the tiny link. And when the radio station told him it was all just a prank and refused to pay up, he sued them for $510,000 and ended up winning.
And in your favor, I'm going to award $250,000 for your damages, $10,000 for your future medicals, $250,000 for pain and suffering, for a total award of $510,000.
As of today, David has since had his tattoo completely removed and paid off his parents' house entirely.
Now, I ain't gonna lie, he took an L on that. But why would he make the letters so big? And let's be honest, $250,000 isn't a lot of money. Maybe 10 years ago, it might have been a lot of money, but nowadays, it's just not a lot of money. And I won't blame him because everybody has a price, right? Because for $10 million, I might just go ahead and do it, but like real small, right? Like real small right here. But now be honest with me. Are you going to go ahead and get KRUD right here on your forehead for $250,000? Is it enough money for you? Be honest.
Say that consciousness lifts itself out of a body is a very bold statement.
Yes, near-death experiences are for real. About 45% of people having an NDE do indeed describe consciousness above their body. By the time I see that in thousands of experiences, you've got to go back to that core scientific principle that what is consistently observed is real. We have scores and scores of these out-of-body experiences where the consciousness can travel city blocks, observing ongoing earthly events, retaining that information of what they saw, almost invariably accurate down to the finest detail.
You said you had this fly out.
93 UFO occurrences in an hour. You might catch me outside, but you'll never catch me anywhere near Joshua Tree if that's what's going on. I ain't gonna lie to you.
The PDUM number? Yeah, I think there's a 25% chance that things go really, really badly.
You know you're playing with fire when the people building it have a score called the PDUM, which is the percentage chance that this ends in disaster.
Okay, so this is never before seen footage of a portal opening up near Thunder Mountain in Sedona, Arizona. You can clearly see a buddy of mine, David, put an infrared security camera on his roof and captured this portal opening up above his house. You can see orbs coming out. This is never before seen footage that was shot in Sedona, Arizona.
Watch out for frenemies. A frenemy is someone who they smile at you, but secretly they're competing with you. And if you start to kind of pull back the curtain on the psychology of it, they admire qualities in you that they wish they had. And so there's this initial admiration that starts the friendship, but over time, they start shifting into envy. And that envy starts to turn into sabotage. They really want to be close to you because they're drawn to what you represent. But the irony is that the closer they get to you, that triggers their insecurity because it's reflecting back what they feel they lack. So they live in this weird contradiction. You know, on the surface they're supporting you, but there's this underlying resentment underneath it all. Can't have a true friendship with someone like that because there's a part of them that's secretly rooting for you to fall.
You seem to be suggesting then that the mind has a language of its own, independent of the language that the mouth uses.
Yes, right. You can think of it as mentalese.
Mentalese.
The language of thought. And I think speaking is almost like translating mentalese into English or Japanese, and understanding is almost like translating English or Japanese into mentalese, depending, of course, on which language you actually speak. But I think that's why we can understand each other, why we can translate, why we can coin new words when we need them. Words and thoughts were the same thing. It would be impossible to coin a new word. Where would the impetus to coin a word come from if you didn't have some idea that you needed to express? And also, when you're speaking and writing, people often have the sense that they didn't express themselves properly. They'll say, oh no, that isn't what I meant to say. Don't misunderstand me. It came out wrong. What I really meant to say was such and such. When you're writing, you get frustrated and you tear up the paper and you say, darn, that sentence wasn't what I meant. I know what I want to say, but I just can't put it into words. I think there's something real behind that intuition.
Well, that's a subtle feeling when you know that you have an intention that's not quite expressed by the language that you use.
Today, President Trump signed an executive order that labels Antifa a domestic terrorist organization. The order directs officials to investigate, disrupt, and dismantle individuals and groups associating themselves with Antifa and to pursue people who fund their operations.
Did you have any discussions with him that day or at any other time about an afterlife?
I remember sitting in his backyard in his garden one day, and he started talking about God. He said, sometimes I believe in God, sometimes I don't. I think it's 50-50 maybe. But ever since I've had cancer, I've been thinking about it more, and I find myself believing a bit more. Maybe it's because I want to believe in an afterlife, that when you die, it doesn't just all disappear. The wisdom you've accumulated, somehow it lives on. Then he paused for a second and he said, yeah, but sometimes I think it's just like an on-off switch. Click, and you're gone. He said, and paused again, he said, and that's why I don't like putting on-off switches on Apple devices.
This video should terrify you. You see, these students are part of a messed up experiment and this teacher is in on it. Now the teacher gives everybody 3-word puzzles, but here's the setup. This side of the room got words that could be solved, and this side got words that were unsolvable. So this side easily solves the puzzles. And the other side, they're struggling because they can't understand why they just can't get it as easily as the other side. The second word puzzle, same result. They get it easily and they struggle. Now the last puzzle is where it really gets messed up because the last puzzle is actually solvable. But the impossible side, they still couldn't get it. That is called learned helplessness. You see, when you fail a couple times and you see other people succeeding, you start to believe that it's not possible for you. This experiment was able to make half the room feel like they weren't smart enough to do a simple test in just a couple of minutes. Now, isn't that crazy? Just by thinking you can't do something, you can actually make yourself unable to do it. You should never get it twisted. Failure does not mean that you cannot do something. Don't get tricked into thinking that you can't. Maybe the reason why some of your dreams feel impossible is because you were trained to believe that they are. Maybe like these students, you're a victim of learned helplessness.
And you definitely have to get around people who believe anything can be done as well. Because if you're around a bunch of people who will find any reason why things can't be done, it'll never get done. So yeah, there's a lot to that clip for sure.
Okay, so this is at my job last night. Well, this morning, 2 a.m. Somebody drove up by himself. No one's in the car with him. He puts his code in, goes in, and then boom, where that came from.
The Secret Service just dismantled a secret weapon hidden in New York City capable of shutting down every cell phone in the city. And they found it just as world leaders gather for the UN General Assembly. In a series of raids, agents discovered a massive hidden network of over 300 SIM servers and 100,000 SIM cards. This wasn't for making calls, this was a weapon. According to the Secret Service, this network had the potential to disable cell phone towers and essentially shut down the entire cellular network in New York City. Early analysis shows communication between nation-state threat actors and known criminals. And officials are warning this might not be the only one, cautioning it would be unwise to think that there's not other networks across the country.
I think that this urge that some people have, I think many of us at some level have, for consciousness to be something special. Do you think that ultimately comes from our awareness of our own mortality?
Fear of death.
Yeah.
It is the great shared fear. It's the great equalizer. It doesn't matter where you're from, what language you speak. We're afraid of death. There has never been a religion that has survived that has not promised life after death. I could come to you and say, Brian, I've got the greatest religion in the world. And you say, sounds amazing. Oh, one caveat. When you die, it's over. You'd be like, yeah, no thanks. We need that. It is the one thing that we have no guarantee of. It's the ultimate paradox. It's the catch-22 because we're all going to learn the answer. We just can't get back to tell anybody.
Yeah,
so
sure.
When we finally know. So we're all super curious about it.
No, I've certainly had these moments when we all now and then think about what will it be like that last moment, wherever our deathbed in a hospital, and there's part of me that says, yes, it will be sad, but it will also be potentially deeply exciting because finally the mystery, if there is anything to it, will be revealed.
I might actually have to disagree with them on that one because I don't feel like everybody is fearful of death. The people that accept the fact that that's the only guarantee in life is death, you're not really fearful of death itself. Now, you might be kind of fearful of how you die, but death itself, it's going to happen.
If you're watching this on the 23rd of September, then the rapture didn't happen today. Well, yet. This is 2 Minute Breakdown. Let's talk about why people around the world believe that the rapture is coming today. Okay, so a well-known South African pastor, Joshua Mkhakela, said that he saw a vision of Jesus returning on Rosh Hashanah between the 23rd and 24th of September, which is today and tomorrow. In an interview, he said, "I saw Jesus sitting on his throne and I could hear him very loud and clear saying, 'I am coming soon.'" Now, people have predicted the end of days many times throughout history. A NASA engineer predicted the rapture in 1988. Harold Camping, a radio personality, predicted the rapture in 2011. And you'll probably remember Marshall Applewhite, the Heaven's Gate founder who convinced 38 of his followers that the rapture was coming and to commit suicide by drinking a lethal combination of substances. You get the idea. There have been many predictions about the rapture coming that didn't come to fruition. But each time someone does predict the rapture, there is a group of staunch believers. And this time is no different. After Pastor Joshua Mkhakela made his prediction, the word spread globally. And many believers started to take drastic measures to prepare. People have been sharing rapture preparation tips online. People have been quitting their jobs. One Australian man even went as far as to sell his car, saying that he's catching a flight to heaven in September anyway. Now, there are a few reasons that so many people believe that this time's prediction is true. Firstly, the dates given fall over Rosh Hashanah, which is the new year in Judaism. Secondly, the outbreak of global conflict recently have many believing that the end of days is coming. Thirdly, people believe that Charlie Kirk and his death is a biblical example of one of the 2 witnesses that will die after offering their testimonies during the rapture. Interestingly, many believers are concerned about whether or not their pets will also be raptured. Evidently, this prediction has many people panicked about the end of days. And the fact that it has spread globally has definitely boosted Joshua Mkhakela's influence.
NASA wanted to figure out how to hire more geniuses, so they ran a study, and what they found was wild. In the 1960s, NASA hired a scientist named George Land to find out what makes a genius. So he started testing 5-year-olds using a creativity test that NASA designed. The results? 98% of the kids scored at the genius level. Their ability to solve problems with imagination was off the chart. But here's the twist. He tested them again at age 10. Only 30% scored as creative. At 15, just 12%. As adults, only 2%. Think about that. From 98% down to 2%. What happened? Land said it wasn't biology, it was environment. He believed we learn to be uncreative, that over time we're trained to follow, not imagine, to converge, not explore. You were likely born something of a creative genius. Maybe it's still in you. You just have to unlearn what dimmed it.
So convinced that if people put 50% of the energy that they put into politics, into their own personal growth, that this world would actually be the better world that they were hoping politics would make for them.
Oh
my God. A statue of Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump holding hands and lifting their leg up has been placed near the National Mall in Washington, D.C. There are 3 plaques on this statue. The one in the middle is celebrating National Friendship Month, Donald Trump and his closest friend, Jeffrey Epstein. And the other plaques are allegedly the letters that they exchanged between each other. People are clearly frustrated about the Epstein files, but I have so many questions. Who put this up there? Who has the money to put a statue up like this? How do they do it without anyone seeing? Is it even allowed to put up public statues? And if it is, if you take it down, is it a violation of the First Amendment? This is wild.
At the height of his scam in 2008, Bernie Madoff's personal bank account at Chase Manhattan was $5 billion. Despite what you would think he would be doing for him being able to get away with it for so long, all Bernie did with that money that he scammed was just put it into his personal bank account, which means that he could have written you a personal check for $1 billion and then looked you in the eye and say, I can do that 3 more times and still be a billionaire in cash money in my personal checking account. Imagine being like the bank teller who pulls that up whenever he looks at his account.
Bernie Madoff was the scammer of all scammers. I'm talking about he did it bigger than most. $5 billion is nothing to sneeze at.
I didn't realize the super rich were building hidden mansions in case of nuclear war, and it blew my mind learning where they're all located. I figured Texas was going to be a top pick because of their farmland and food supply, but I couldn't have been more wrong. If you're on mainland USA, it turns out the best places are states like Massachusetts and Vermont. But why? I found out New England's atmosphere is unique, in that its wind patterns would constantly push nuclear fallout away to the Atlantic Ocean and beyond. But the ultra-rich are building their compounds in 3 places that make sense when thinking it through. The first is Hawaii, where Mark Zuckerberg built a $270 million fortress alongside other billionaires. It's because Hawaii is the most isolated area in the world with critical infrastructure. The other 2 locations being used for top-secret bunkers are Australia and New Zealand. It's because they're self-sufficient, sparsely populated, and experts say those 2 countries are the safest places to be if things hit the fan. Are you a prepper or more likely to wing it? Let me know what your planning style is, and if it involves Hawaii, you better let me come with.
If you live in America and you don't have millions on millions, it's definitely not cheap or easy to build a bunker under your house. It's not like Sweden where they've got everybody covered.
So you might have heard that only 15% of people are self-aware. This comes from Tasha Eurich, an American psychologist, and you might be hoping that I'll dispel it, and we'll talk about it. The idea that only a small percentage of people will reach self-awareness actually dates back to the 1940s with Lawrence Kohlberg's work in the development of morality, and he was a developmental psychologist. He outlined the way that children develop morality from a young age, starting with punishment and reward. So you shouldn't do something because you might be punished, and you should do something else because you might be rewarded. He gave the example of somebody stealing medication for their sick wife. So in the first stages, people might say that he shouldn't have done that because it's against the law. That's what children say. And then the next stage, they might say that their wife was a nice person, therefore they should do it. So they're considering who that person is and whether or not they're deserving of help. This is, by the way, a very immature view of the world. In the 3rd and 4th stages in which you develop morality, they might think about who that person is and how he feels about his wife. And this is where we start to get selfishness into the equation. Maybe his needs and his wife's needs are more important than the law. Now, where most people end up is at stage 5, where we start to consider peer pressure and the needs of society. What other people tell you is your morality. We can see this a lot with groupthink, where we have groups that are very divided, and when one person tries to say, hey, maybe what you're saying isn't okay, they get beaten down because of it. You can't deviate from the norm. This is the most powerful influence that we have in morality. But stage 6 comes where people recognize universal morality, that every person deserves a basic amount of dignity regardless of who they are. And you'll see people go against that a lot when you talk about torture. Should a governmental body ever say that torture is okay, depending on how bad that person is? If you can think of a certain group that you think torture is okay for, you never reach stage 6. These ideas of what percentage of people are self-aware are very controversial, in part because they're designating a certain degree of morality or value on a person. A lot of people find that upsetting. All I can say is that the next time that you feel that you have an absolute hard line, just take a moment to think and imagine why you think that and if there's any arguments on the other side. Being able to understand how other people feel and why they might feel that way is kind of the first step in maybe becoming self-aware.
Now, when you bring morality into any kind of relationship, it always turns out to be self-interest is the highest priority. Most people are worried about, how they're going to end up on the other side of it. So, it really just depends on who you're dealing with.
Don't talk to mediums, don't talk to psychics, and do not connect to the other side because it's demonic. I hear this all the time, and most people reference this from the Bible saying don't talk to mediums because you're going against God, you're going against the Lord. Well, my understanding, my very limited understanding, you can butcher me in the comments if you want, is that there's only one real reference of an actual experience with the medium in the Bible, and that is with the medium of Endor with King Saul trying to contact his dead homie, who was his right-hand man during battle, Samuel. So Samuel was not alive. King Saul wanted some advice, reached out to a medium. The medium said, hey, we're not supposed to be doing this. He said, let's do it anyway. And yada, yada, yada. His sons died. That's what the medium said was going to happen, and he lost all hope. Tell me if I'm wrong, whatever. I know the Bible also mentions other warnings not to seek out mediums, because again, it's going against God. But what about the idea that it's not referencing an antiquity of all the beautiful experiences? Can you have an evil experience with a demon and summon up bad spirits? Sure, I'm sure that's possible. Buyer beware. There's always bad and good in every experience we have in life, but it's not referencing all the beautiful stories that have not been recorded in ancient times and even to today. I know so many beautiful experiences that people connect to mediums that were healing, and a high percentage are positive. And again, there's swindlers out there. You can hire a bad accountant, he can screw you up, and maybe you'll end up in jail. I don't know. Find a good accountant. There's always good, there's always bad, and if there are demons, they're the nicest demons I ever met, because I've seen so many good experiences. And sure, are the demons lying? That's what everyone else says. Maybe they are, but if the person's healing, then all right, lie away. I don't know what to tell you. All I'm saying is maybe there's a little more beyond the Bible that's not in there written by man. Maybe there's more to explore. And until you have your own experience, you might not ever know. Do your research, talk to people, do your own accounting, if you will. But if you want to rely on just the Bible, that's cool too. Godspeed, for lack of better terms. All I'm saying, there might be more out there until you have an experience of your own. Knock it till you try it or don't try it. Either way, I don't know, man.
Now, I kind of understand what he means, because life is full of duality, and hypocrisy. So if you're speaking with somebody and they can only give you the negative in something, ask them to give you the positive. And if they can't give you the positive in something, then that kind of gives you an answer right then and there. You have to look at life in a whole plane. It's not just one. There's both.
Check out their outfits. They're wearing two different dresses from what they were wearing.
This strange footage came from a woman's Ring camera on the night of August 11th, 2025, and it might have been one of the wildest real-time glitches ever caught. At 8:41 p.m., two women who claimed to be missionaries appeared at her door. The homeowner spoke through the camera instead of opening it, but what happened next was unsettling. In the first clip, both women wore matching pink dresses of a distinct style, yet in the second, they appeared in completely different outfits, different colors, patterns, and cuts. As they stepped closer to the porch, their clothing instantly changed before the lens. People couldn't decide if it was a glitch, a trick, or something far stranger.
How do you pronounce this famous author's name? Well, if you said Dr. Seuss, you're wrong, but you're probably not alone because it's one of the most mispronounced words amongst English speakers. Just like this word, which many people pronounce as kibosh or kibosh, but is correctly pronounced as kibosh. Or this word, which some people mispronounce as cachet when it should be pronounced as cash, like the money. Then there's one of the most famously mispronounced words ever. It's not niche, it's niche. But back to my original point. If this wasn't supposed to be pronounced Dr. Seuss, how is it supposed to be pronounced? It's correctly pronounced Seuss. In fact, one of the author's friends wrote a poem about his name that went like this. You're wrong as the deuce, and you shouldn't rejoice. If you're calling him Seuss, he pronounces it Soyce. Eventually, however, so many people were mispronouncing his name that he just went with the anglicized version, Dr. Seuss, and that's what we call him today. Don't stop saying Seuss, because you've said it for a while, but if you want more cool stories like this, check out my newsletter, link in bio.
You know, when you really think about it, Dr. Seuss just sounds better, you know? I don't want to read a book by some guy named Dr. Soyce.
You're going to like this. This is a cool one. So Bob Lazar claimed UFOs ran on a mysterious element known as 115. At the time, scientists said that this was totally impossible, but we might be inching closer to proving him right. So here's what just happened. Researchers at Lawrence Berkeley Lab created a brand new way to make super heavy elements, because up until now, the heaviest elements like 118, also known as organesson, were made using something called calcium-48 beams. But that method hit a dead end, and we literally ran out of the right starting materials. So the team tried something new. They built a titanium-50 beam and fired it at plutonium. And over the course of 22 days, it actually produced livermorium, which is element 116. And that's huge, because that means that we might finally have a pathway to reach elements 119, 120, and maybe even a stable version of element 115. So scientists have long predicted something called an island of stability, which is a zone where certain super heavy isotopes don't instantly just fall apart. If we can reach that, these elements could last long enough to actually study in bulk, and that's where the real surprises will come in. So the big question, if one of those stable isotopes turns out to behave the way that Lazar described, which was bending gravity and space-time, would that mean that UFOs really were running on physics that we're only now catching up to? Sure seems that way. Let me know what you think.
We get consumed in digitalization. We end up with real aliens.
Nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday.
Whoa.
And right now, you can save
See this? See,
whoa.
See, that's real. That's not AI. Easy. See, that's what happens when you get stuck in a digital world. You're like, I don't even care. I don't even know. We are pulling the roof down. So I think people need to get out and breathe some air, touch some dirt, touch some grass.
There's no good food in America, and people are going to argue with me on this. I have a big organic farm. Food was my first business. There's something called pollen drift, and GMOs is a controversial subject. GMOs had more chance of devastating human health than nuclear war. Plants are sexual reproducing, right? So the pollen drifts up to 10 miles. So if you have food from an organic farm in the United States that's surrounded by GMO crops, odds are it's getting into your food. What I can tell you is in most of Europe, Scandinavia, it's illegal. Almost every person who moves to Europe finds out they can eat bread, they can eat pasta, they can eat pizza, they can eat hamburgers and fries, and you don't gain weight.
You know, I keep hearing that a lot about Europe, and I'm going to actually have to make that trip and see for myself. But all the iTrack fam that's in Europe, let me know if that's a real thing.
Okay, so someone sent me this video of King Charles and people fainting in his presence. And at first I thought, people faint. But then I'm like, wait a minute. How many times have people fainted by being in the presence of King Charles? And what is with that? Now, we know about this strange painting and everything. I'm not going to talk too much about that. But all I will say is the age-old explanation for this is that people tend to faint in the presence of demonic or satanic activity. I will say, if you were to just ask someone what kind of vibes this portrait gives off, I don't know that you could say it's love and light. In fact, it looks bloody. And again, we saw what happens when you invert it, duplicate it, and match them up together. What type of coincidence would that be? And what is with the very interesting history of the royal family anyway? And what makes their bloodline enable them, or rather give them the power to rule over others? I'm not sure I'm really buying this whole story. Side note, by the way, we're all familiar with inheritance taxes, where when someone passes in your family, you don't just get all their money. The government gets a big cut. Of course, taxed here, taxed there, and even taxed when you bite it. Well, King Charles is not paying any inheritance tax from the Queen passing because of a law, and they don't want the royal wealth to be salami sliced away. So once again, we have another example of rules for thee, but not for me. How dare you try to get around paying inheritance tax on your loved one who worked their whole lives to accumulate that money. We don't have to deal with that if we're a royal family member. I just thought that was interesting, and I can tell you that if there was a vote, I would say probably the vast majority of people would say, no, you got to pay it too. Or get rid of the whole thing. Not selective law applyingness.
Let's do a little psychic test. So I'm going to be thinking of a colour, and it will be one of these up here. Now, as I'm thinking of that colour, I want you to just try and tune in and see if one of those colours stands out to you and how you receive it. So if you might see a flash of that colour in your mind, you might hear the word. Just let me know in the comments what colour you get and how you get it. And now for the big reveal. The colour I was thinking about is purple. So if you got that right, congratulations. And follow along for more psychic tests.
All right, see, now I'm getting back on track. The purple just stuck out to me, like right off the bat. So I'm getting back on track. Let me know what you got down in the comments, though.
This guy spent 9 years photographing the same street corner, and what he found says something uncomfortable about all of us. Welcome back to Art Snacks, where small ideas feed big thoughts. Bon appétit! Between 2007 and 2016, Danish photographer Peter Funch stood every morning at the corner of 42nd Street and Vanderbilt Avenue in New York, right outside Grand Central. Same spot, same hour, camera in hand, quietly capturing people on their way to work. At first, the photos seemed like ordinary street shots of strangers, rushing somewhere, lost in thought. But when you look closer, you realize some of those strangers appear again, months or even years apart. The same person, and sometimes even the same posture, the same coffee cup, and the same distracted expression. Funch spent nearly a decade returning to that one corner to expose the patterns hidden in our routines. How even in a city of millions, we repeat the same gestures, walk the same path, and play out the same private rituals without noticing. It's a reminder that change feels constant, but maybe we're not changing as much as we think.
Hey, so basically we are who we are. You could like it or love it.
Mysterious signal is emitting from a classified network of defense satellites built by SpaceX, according to a report by NPR. The Starshield satellites seem to be transmitting to the Earth's surface on frequencies normally used for sending commands to satellites in space. The unusual transmissions could interfere with other commercial and scientific satellites, according to experts.
Apparently billionaires have some top secret rules, like the fact that guys like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg are known to schedule and have fake flights fly, just so people don't know what plane they're actually on. This video went viral a couple years ago about how Jeff Bezos moves in public. He travels with a bodyguard that uses a fake hand so his real hand can always be on his weapon, just in case. A few years ago, Mark Zuckerberg really installed what he called a panic chute in the Facebook headquarters. It's basically a giant slide that takes him to the bottom of the building in case it's ever getting attacked. Donald Trump travels in two of the same exact cars to keep his real location hidden, and that is because he's the president, but the Saudi royal family is known to do the same thing. It's said that at any event or any conversation, if Elon Musk taps his watch twice, it's a cue for his assistant or any of his 20 security guards to get him out of there. While Jeff Bezos would close his laptop and flip his pen to end meetings, Steve Jobs would close his notebook to do the same, and if you were ever in a conversation with Steve Jobs and he said, "Let's walk," it meant he was trying to find a way out of that conversation.
Hey, you know, life has so many levels, and it's interesting to see what it's like on that billionaire level. They play by a whole different set of rules, and it's quite interesting.
The law of attraction states that like attracts like, but I never thought it would go this far. This is a drop of my blood, and surprisingly, McCormick red food coloring looks exactly the same as a drop of blood. So, it's attracted to it? What? Today I'm going to show you why food coloring is not only attracted to my blood, but it's attracted to food. And when you put a bunch of drops of food coloring together, they sense each other, move, and react as if alive, locked in a continual dance of attraction and escape. This is a video about the mystery of attractive liquids.
In 2009, an undergraduate at the University of Wisconsin was doing an experiment where he dropped some drops of food coloring onto a sterile glass slide. To his astonishment, the drops seemed to come alive. They began moving on their own and interacting with each other. Had he just discovered a new form of life? He studied this phenomenon on his own until later joining the PhD program at Stanford, where he and his team finally got to the bottom of what was going on. They found that these droplets mimicked living cells and could even self-sort. In this video, I'm going to show you how this works and even show exactly what to do to mimic this experiment at home for yourself.
The reason this happens with food coloring specifically is because of a special ingredient called propylene glycol.
There's a pattern every breakout artist follows. Here's how Billie Eilish did it. At 14, she gained access to gatekeepers the unconventional way. Ocean Eyes went viral on SoundCloud, and suddenly Interscope Records came knocking. She didn't chase the industry chased her. From day one, Billie owned her brand identity. Baggy clothes, neon roots, whisper-sung vocals over dark, minimal beats with her brother Phineas. She wasn't trying to be the next pop star. She was creating a completely new archetype. Everything from her visuals to her messaging screamed authenticity. She leveraged that owned identity into unstoppable momentum. Every single, every music video, every interview reinforced who she was. By the time When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go dropped, she had millions of fans who felt like they knew her personally. Then she drove demand to historic levels. Youngest artist to sweep all 4 major Grammys in one night, stadium tours, Bond theme. Each win created access to bigger gatekeepers, which she leveraged into more driven demand. Most artists stumble into success, but what if you could be strategic about it? That's what this pattern reveals.
Now, at this day and time, that's the only way to do it. I mean, if you can do it independently, that's probably preferred by any artist. But if you can work out a deal that works out in your favor with the major label, that also seems to be working pretty well for most artists too.
A lot of times when people get to success and don't know that the darkness is coming, that's when you see them trip and fall.
Yeah.
The Oscars. When people win an Oscar, the ultimate darkness is they may not work again.
This guy loved exploring abandoned places, but this time he went too far and it cost him his life. For a simple viral video, he jumped into the pool of an old abandoned school. The water had been stagnant for years, filled with filth and invisible microorganisms. What he didn't know was that a deadly amoeba was lurking there, a parasite capable of entering through the nose and destroying the brain in just a few days. After his dive, everything seemed normal. But a few hours later, he started having severe headaches and nausea, and then his condition quickly worsened. The doctors tried everything, but this infection is almost always fatal. He just wanted to go viral, but he found death instead.
Note to self, stay up out of abandoned pools. There might be amoebas.
The ones you help the most will often be the first to turn against you, even without hearing your side of the story. That's normal, to be expected.
Is the biggest US dollar bill. Not physically largest, but largest denomination. It's not the $100 bill, not even close. These are the top 5 highest denomination US currency bills ever made. One of these you're not even legally allowed to own. Number 5, the $500 bill. These were printed between 1861 and 1945, and they were primarily used for transactions between banks, though some saw circulation publicly. Multiple people appeared on these bills over the years, including US Chief Justice John Marshall and Presidents Abraham Lincoln and William McKinley. Oh, and none of the bills on this list are currently printed, so a lot of them are collector's items, and they go for a lot more than their face value nowadays. Well, APMEX has one of the William McKinley versions of the $500 bill going for just under $2,000 right now, but some of the later ones are worth way more. Number 4, the $1,000 bill. Similar to the $500 bill, these were printed between 1861 and 1945. The very first ones had Robert Morris on the front. I had no idea until now who Robert Morris was, even though I live very close to Robert Morris University. His Wikipedia article says that he was a financier and a founding father of the United States. Several other people have also appeared on the 20 different versions of the $1,000 bill, including Alexander Hamilton and Grover Cleveland. And in terms of current value, APMEX has one of the Grover Cleveland versions on sale for about $4,300. Number 3, the $5,000 bill. Now we're getting to the cool ones. Guess how much a graded $5,000 bill sold for at auction recently. I'll give you a few seconds to comment your guess while I tell you that just like the $500 and the $1,000 bills, these $5,000 bills were used primarily for transactions between banks. And they were also printed between 1861 and 1945. 9 different versions of the $5,000 bill, and it looks like James Madison was the only person to ever appear on any of them. Now, are you ready for how much one of these could be worth today? A single graded $5,000 bill sold for $144,000 in 2024. But in 2023, a different graded $5,000 bill sold for a crazy $300,000. Coincidentally, if someone shared this video with you, it's because they need to borrow $300,000 and this is their way of asking for it. Or it's because they found this video interesting. It's one of those 2 reasons. But number 2, the $10,000 bill. This was the highest denomination of US currency to be used publicly, although like the others, it was used primarily for transactions between banks. Okay, here we go. Unlike the others, these were printed from 1878 1878 until 1934, so we finally have different years. The Wikipedia article shows 9 different versions of the $10,000 bill. Salmon P. Chase and Andrew Jackson were the only 2 people to appear on any of the versions. But how much are these worth today? Are you sitting down? Because in 2023, a graded $10,000 bill sold at auction for a whopping $480,000. But that's nothing compared to number 1, the $100,000 bill. These were only printed from 1934 to 1935. They all had Woodrow Wilson on the face and were used exclusively for transactions between Federal Reserve banks. None of these were ever circulated publicly. Only about 42,000 of these were made, and most of them were destroyed in the years following their creation. So how much is one of these $100,000 bills worth today? I have no idea, because they're actually illegal for private citizens to own, so they're essentially priceless. The Smithsonian Institution and the Federal Reserve System are 2 of the few places that are known to actually own some of these $100,000 bills. I, for one, definitely don't secretly own one of these.
I bet you had no clue there was a $100,000 bill. Don't cap. I know.
Can you tell when there's an air marshal on board? I can, but you can't. And I can't tell you when. Are there air marshals on board all flights? There might be. Is it likely? Maybe. That's something I can't really get into, but do I know if they're on board? Yeah, I know if they're on board. How many checklists do you go through before takeoff? There are 10 normal checklists on a Boeing 777. I go through 4 or 5 of them for takeoff, and then another couple in flight, and I think 3 for landing. So it would be before start checklist, it would be a before engine start checklist, engine start, taxi. Then when I get up to altitude, there's a cruise checklist, there's a descent checklist, and then after I land, there's a after landing checklist, there's a secure checklist, and a parking checklist. If that adds up to 10, I think I got all of them from memory. Have you ever had to enter a holding pattern for hours? Well, I've entered a lot of holding patterns, but not for hours. Usually for minutes. Probably an hour is the longest I've ever stayed in a holding pattern, and that was because there was a crash at an airport, and we ended up diverting to another airport.
What's the one way you can actually tell if someone's emotionally intelligent? According to NASA, it's all about their laugh. As author Charles Duhigg explained in his book Super Communicators, back in the 80s, NASA's search for astronauts for the International Space Station led them to an interesting discovery. The best astronauts? Basically personality hires, who are, also rocket scientists. At the time, NASA was having a lot of trouble with astronauts getting depressed and not getting along with each other during long space missions. And that wasn't going to work on the months-long missions to the International Space Station. So they started going through old job interview tapes to see if there might be something that the most successful astronauts all had in common. And it turned out it was how they laughed. Specifically, whether or not they matched the interviewer's energy. If she laughed big, they laughed big. If he just chuckled, they just chuckled. That kind of mirroring is a vital part of human connection and emotional intelligence. We've all been in the situation where we're laughing our head off and everyone else in the room is just kind of smiling. You feel dumb and isolated. NASA found that those who had a good sense of humor and were adept at that emotional mirroring part of laughter made not only the best astronauts, but the most resilient and harmonious teams of astronauts. NASA is now digging into similar research today as it tries to plan an eventual mission to Mars, which will involve years-long missions in cramped conditions. So, being extroverted, agreeable, having high coping ability, which all tend to be highly correlated to a good sense of humor, emotional intelligence, and being adept at this whole emotional mirroring laughter thing, are going to be pretty vital skills to survive this kind of high-pressure, emotionally turbulent environment. So the next time someone tries to shrug you off as a mere personality hire, let them know that actually you're basically a rocket scientist. And the next time you want to assess someone's emotional intelligence, the way they laugh might be all the data you need.
I mean, if you actually plan on being an astronaut and going to Mars and going to the moon, you had better have a great sense of humor, because a lot of those situations you might end up in won't be so funny.
If you put your hand over a flashlight, it makes your hand glow bright red. So what if you shine a super bright flashlight into your mouth? Will it light up your brain and the light will come out of your pupils? So this is only 500 lumen, but when I double click it, it goes to 32,000 lumen. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Holy crap, you guys, I just went back and looked at that footage. It actually went up through my eyes. You could see through this eye. You could see the light coming out of it, the red light coming out of my pupil. That was crazy. I need to try that again. I could only hold it on there for a little bit of time because the light got so hot in my mouth. Also, I knew that it was light coming from the inside of my head and not some reflection on my eye because it was completely dark in the room. Also, because the light that's hitting my retina didn't go through my eye first and get flipped like normal, it actually appeared so that anything that hit the bottom of my retina appeared in the top view of my vision.
Korea's right there. Look, no lights at all. Then you turn around, look at this. The difference is insane.
And the craziest part, nobody crosses that bridge. There's no escape.
Imagine being born there.
Humans are stirring up this whole process. They're encouraging it. And so what I ask people is, are the thoughts in your head, the intrusive thoughts, is it God can never forgive you for what you've done? Or is it God can never forgive me for what I've done, the pronouns? And typically it's you for what you've done, third party. And it's like, hey, that's a demon. And the people who tell me I'm telling it to myself, I'm like, hey, the demons have trained you on the script, and now you're regurgitating the script.
Which is worse.
It's worse because it's closer to suicide, which is the inevitable. They can't kill us, right? It's Job. You can torment them but not kill them. And so they try to get us to kill ourselves. They torment us to the point of suicide. It's always the end goal. Take a player off the board, and also hurt God in the process. It's a win-win for the demons.
Disturbing facts that may ruin your day. Your brain blocks out the feeling of your organs moving around inside of your body at all times. After giving birth, some women can feel their organs sliding back into place as their uterus shrinks. Human babies are helpless at birth compared to other animals because our brains grow so big. We evolved to give birth earlier in our development so that we don't severely hurt the mother while coming out of the birth canal. Your nose is always in your line of sight. Your brain just chooses to ignore it. You could look at any object and your tongue already knows what it feels like to lick it. You could have 2/3 of your liver removed and it would regenerate itself. If your immune system found out that you had eyes, it would attack them and you would go blind. No matter how hard you strain, you're only using about 60% of your full strength. If your brain didn't stop you, you could tear your muscles and break your bones just trying to throw a ball as hard as you can. When you hear about mothers lifting cars, this is thought to be the fight or flight adrenaline temporarily overriding that limit. If you have surgery and they have to take out your intestines, they put them in a bowl next to them while they work. Your intestines wiggle around in the bowl like snakes the whole time.
Scientists at Stanford have figured out how to hypnotize people using magnets, and it only takes 90 seconds. They developed a technique called shift, which uses targeted magnetic pulses to make the brain way more open to hypnosis. It works through transcranial magnetic stimulation, a totally non-invasive method that zaps specific brain areas linked to hypnotizability. In a test on 80 fibromyalgia patients who were normally hard to hypnotize, those who got the shift treatment became significantly more responsive to hypnotic suggestions. No pills, no weird pendulums, just brain stimulation that could make hypnotherapy way more effective, especially for things like chronic pain.
Bro, there are definitely some unexplainable celebrity deaths, like Left Eye from TLC.
Oh, Left Eye? What about her?
When she died, she was actually in Honduras on like a spiritual awakening journey, and she was filming a documentary. About 2 weeks into her journey and filming this documentary, her and her crew get in a car accident and actually hit a 10-year-old boy and kill him. Left Eye took this super hard, right? A lot of her crew said that the reason that she took this death so serious was because she thought that there was a spirit following her, trying to kill her, and it took the wrong person because the little kid's last name was Lopez.
Same name?
Her name is Lisa Lopez.
Oh my.
So she offered to pay for the kid's entire funeral. The kid's mom actually liked that, and so she gave Left Eye his shoes, right? Well, that's when everything took like a 180. She noticed that written on them were the initials LL, Lisa Lopez. And that to her confirmed she was the one that was supposed to die that day, not that little boy. She actually, during this documentary, there's a part in it where she says, I don't think I have much time left on this earth. I think I'm gonna die soon.
No, she knew she was gonna.
This is like rolling down a hill in a car, knowing you're gonna hit something at the bottom, never stepping on the brakes.
All of her crew started reporting that cameras would turn on or malfunction and not record when they wanted them to, or that the audio devices would record people speaking in languages that they'd never heard before. All of this crazy, unexplainable stuff that is real and caught on a real documentary. It's not like this is just hearsay. This stuff is caught on camera. A couple weeks after that kid's death, one day she was driving her car with her friends while the cameras were rolling, and the car just flipped out of nowhere. She was thrown from the car, cracked her skull open, and she died. And it is one of those situations that it's just like, how do you explain that?
I've noticed a pattern of people talking about things that they've noticed towards the end of their life. And even people around them will notice differences in people, right? They're like start to kind of nest or fix their life just before it's time for them to go. So it's interesting that he said all that because it kind of just adds more to the things that I've been noticing. That's interesting. Let me know what you think about it.
Guy had a friend who he personally saw
do things that were not supposed to be possible. You only see in Marvel movies. Superhuman speed and physically growing in front of him. Background story of it is when he was a kid, he was recruited to work for an entity and he accepted. And when he did that, it took him into this whole other life where he would access other realms through first to be dreaming and lucid dreaming.
Yeah.
But then it got to the point where, and this guy who I'm talking to told me that it happened right in front of him. He called his friend because his brother was going through something. He's like, I don't know who to call. I'm going to call my friend who does this weird stuff. And he shows up and his friend says to him, it's going to get weird right now. I need you to stay calm.
Wow.
And he said, then his friend grew like 7 inches in front of him. And when he was done growing, looked at him and said his friend's name and said, he's not here right now, but he'll be back soon. And he invites this thing into his house. He's like, it looked like him, but it didn't look like him. And then when his friend came back, he shrunk back down. He was exhausted and he walked away and he said, I got to go home and rest. But I say this because I know it sounds like a movie, but I was able to track down people connected to this story who verified this.
Yeah.
And nobody seems to want to actually come out and talk about it except for this one guy who wasn't directly involved in this big story. And so it's an ongoing thing, I suppose. But I say this because one of the things that I was faced with was like, if this is true, like we're talking about something, recruiting people to work for it. Mm-hmm. And then in the time that I first heard that story, other people were coming to me saying the same thing that I hadn't aired it yet. Like nobody knew that I had this story.
Wow.
And I was like, what is going on? And I've uncovered, it has to be like at least a dozen of people's stories that haven't all been on the show because they don't want to talk. Like the one guy, I called him and he walked off the factory floor that he was working at night. Within 3 minutes, he's sobbing, maybe 30 seconds, crying his eyes out, scared to tell his wife what he's been through. He cuts it off. And we were supposed to record. And he told me, he's like, listen, since I talked to you, things have been getting really bad and weird. I'm scared. Lose my number. Don't ever talk to me again.
Yeah.
And so we never talked again.
It sounds like a demon, but then on the other hand, it sounds like something else. You know what I mean? It sounds like extraterrestrial type thing. I don't know. That's a very interesting. Give me some of your guesses down in the comments.
So Brandon Biggs is the guy who made the prophecy that Trump would get hit in the ear. Now he's back again, making another prophecy that there's going to be a huge ship going across the ocean in the days ahead.
Saw these major alien ship, and it flies over the Vatican, and it goes over the Mayan temples down in Mexico. And I said, Lord, is there 2 of these? Because I keep praying about this. And he said, no, it's just one. And that's what's going to make everybody freak out because they're going to see it moving across the ocean. You understand? It's going to be something that's going to be on TV. It's going to move across the ocean. And people are going to freak out in the days ahead. Then I saw little bitty ships coming out of this mothership that were balls of light. And it wasn't a real ship. It was demonic looking light that was traveling around causing confusion in our skies. You say, Brandon, that sounds way out there. Yeah, it is. It was way out there to me. I didn't even want to talk about it. But I'm instructed to. You say, well, Brandon, that sounds like you're on something. Well, no, folks, I'm just here to warn you. I'm just here to warn you. And as wild out there as it sounds, fearful sights you will see that will bring you to your knee. I'm here to warn you. The enemy is not playing fair with trying to deceive people with what's coming. He's going to throw all the curveballs he can to try to deceive the nations. When the Antichrist steps on the scene and he says, hey, we have a solution for all the problems in the days ahead. I have peace. I'm going to bring peace. I'm going to bring in prosperity. I'm going to do all this. But all you have.
So he says a big ship is coming. Here's the question. Are there big ships? Well, people who study underwater have said that there are football-sized things underwater moving at least 200 miles per hour.
You received intelligence that suggests that there are perhaps deep water alien bases right now sitting on the ocean floor on this planet. Is that accurate?
I would say that's pretty accurate.
Can you go into more detail? How long have they been here? Where are they?
Well, I'm extrapolating all this with my East Tennessee vernacular. So we've got five or six deep water areas of our oceans. We actually know more about the surface of the moon than we do about these areas. And these are areas where we have a high frequency of UFO or UAP sightings. We've had naval folks have told me pretty high up that they've actually tracked these things. Now, we have stuff that can go underwater probably 30 to 40 miles an hour, maybe something a little faster that the Chinese haven't stole from us yet. And we've tracked things big as a football field going 200 miles an hour. Now I realize in the water you extrapolate that to knots and all that, but just for good old East Tennessee common sense, 200 miles an hour is something the size of a football field, and we don't know what it is.
200 miles per hour, the size of a football field. Here's my question, guys. Was the movie Independence Day showing future events? I don't know. But here's what I can tell you. Be close with the Lord. No matter what the situation is, no matter what's to come. Because at the end of the day, God is your covering. No matter what you see in this reality. Amen?
Now, when the Brandon Briggs guy, predicted the whole Trump thing, a lot of people might have called that a fluke, and it might have been. But if this actually does come to pass and we do start to see ships the size of football fields and things like that in the sky, it only leads to a few different things. And the next thing that's going to confirm it is the Antichrist popping out of nowhere and just start talking about a one world religion and all these different things. It's only confirmation of one thing: the greatest story ever told. And you know what that is. Go look it up.
She entered a marathon as a model, but left it fighting for her life. In 2011, Taria Pitt was competing in a 100-kilometer ultramarathon through the Australian bush. But 30 kilometers in, she found herself completely surrounded by a sudden bushfire. She was stuck for over 4 hours, with her skin literally melting to rocks before a helicopter finally arrived to airlift her out. But her nightmare was far from over. She had lost 7 fingers, had severe burns to 65% of her body, and fell into a coma. Doctors gave her almost no chance of survival. But while she lay in a coma, her boyfriend Michael bought an engagement ring, believing she would pull through. When she awoke from her coma, doctors broke the news that she'll likely never walk again. Michael quit his job to take care of her, as she underwent over 200 operations and spent 2 years in recovery. And today, she's not only walking, but she competes in the hardest endurance races on the planet, Ironman triathlons.
If that isn't true love, I don't know what is. She was burnt to a crisp, but it didn't mean anything to him. And shout out to her for still being brave enough to continue to compete, man. It's wild.
If you put food out in the sun, it gets dehydrated. If I put food out in the full moonlight, it gets putrefied. It putrefies really fast. So it rots. It's exactly opposite. And then you can also, at nighttime, when the moon is full, you can pull out a thermometer and put it out in the light of the moon, right? And let's say that, as an example, the thermometer reads 70 degrees in the full moonlight. If I put it in the shade of the moonlight, it actually gets warmer. And I pull it out, it gets colder again. So the moon's light is cold. It's not hot, so it's not reflecting the sun. It has nothing to do with the sun. That's what I mean by it's its own light. And that's a simple scientific experiment. Anybody can do it. Thermometer. I don't know if you've ever done it, but I've lived in the northern climates before, and a lot of times if I park my car under a tree, I'll come out to my windshield, to my car in the morning, and half of my windshield will be frozen and the other half won't be. It's happened many, many times, and I never really thought about it until a few years ago, and I put it all together, and I'm like, wow. The reason it frosted over is because the full moon light hit that part of the windshield, and this part was underneath the tree in the shade.
So we're rotating around the Earth, the sun.
Exactly. I'm proposing to you that the sun and the moon are moving around us, just like it looks like. They are the same size, not 400 miles further, bigger, and 400 times further apart. Nah, it's very much the same. The sun, and as astrologically speaking, I think the moon has just as much of an impact as the sun on us. One is our conscious side, one's our unconscious side. One's gold, one's silver, one's hot, one's cold. From our perspective, the moon and the sun are the same size from our perspective, but they tell us, science tries to tell us that we're going around the sun and the moon's going around us. It looks like, and from our experience, it looks like the sun and the moon are different. They're the exact same size. They have power. We can feel their power. Like if you believe in astrology at all, like all of our ancestors have always believed it. They believe that the sun, the moon, and all the stars, each of the individual stars have their own power. They have their own potency that they're affecting us. So like if you're born on a particular day of the year, that's your sun sign, you're a Gemini. And then the exact day that you're born will know, okay, that's where the moon was in the sky. And then they can take a picture of the entire sky. They know exactly where all the planets were the moment you were born. And that's going to impact your entire life. All of our ancestors said the sun is masculine, the moon's feminine. I mean, we can just go on and on and on. And it makes sense. Like if you see the world like that, everything starts clicking. Like all these weird questions that we have from our perspective, from our society, are all basically, they're all science questions. They're like, well, if we this and that, then and then you come up with all these weird questions. But if you just see the Earth as simple, that's how I see it. It's just very simple. Basically what it boils down to is the sun is not the center of our galaxy. We are. The sun, the moon, all the planets are revolving around us. And not just us as a whole, but I like to tell people, like, your mom and dad told you the world doesn't revolve around you. And I like to tell them, yeah, it does, actually. It totally revolves around you. Whatever you think and believe is the world that you're going to have. Your thoughts, your perspective, the things you expect happen. You know, we live in a magical universe.
Yeah, he kind of brought it back home at the end. You know, you go outside with a negative attitude, see where it gets you. But if you go outside with a positive attitude, positive mindset, see where that gets you. You know, these things are real and it all has to do with you.
So NASA backwards spells Asan. Asan means Lord Shiva. And there's a statue of Lord Shiva outside of CERN.
You're not buying the 3-Eye Atlas countdown thing. Well, let me hit you with the facts that they're not talking about. 3-Eye Atlas, it changed color in one night. Yeah, I bet you didn't know that. September 7th, red to green. Never before seen in space. It's got a tail that's pointing the wrong direction toward the sun. That's not how comets work. It's spewing industrial nickel, the exact same chemical process we use here in factories on Earth. And here's the kicker. It is 1,000 times more massive than any interstellar object we've ever seen. Traveling backwards at 130,000 miles per hour. October 29th, it disappears. November, we'll find out. Part 3 coming.
These are some morbid facts about atomic bombs. During a test in 1951, an atomic bomb cameraman accidentally ripped off his safety goggles a few seconds before the bomb exploded. He immediately covered his eyes with his hands, and when the bomb detonated, he saw the bones of his hands through his closed eyelids just like an X-ray. The Soviets' Tsar Bomba was the largest bomb ever set off by far. It was 3,500 times stronger than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima and sent shockwaves that traveled around the Earth 3 times. In 1961, the U.S. Air Force accidentally dropped 2 nuclear bombs on North Carolina, each 250 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima, but luckily neither of them exploded. This map shows how far the radiation could have spread if one of them detonated. Not to mention in 1958, the Air Force dropped a 7,600-pound H-bomb in Savannah, Georgia that remains unfound to this day. In 1964, the U.S. Army performed an experiment to see if 3 young physics students could design an atomic bomb. They had no specific knowledge of nuclear weapons and were only given access to publicly available documents. Within 3 years, they succeeded.
That's why everybody should get nervous when you start to hear these countries talk about using nuclear bombs, because complete devastation is going to come right behind it.
These scientists just won the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for figuring out how your immune system knows not to attack you. Your immune system is full of these special cells called T cells. Each has a unique receptor, like a lock and key, that lets it recognize infected cells. But because there are lots of different infections, your body makes millions and millions of different T cells, each ready to spot a new intruder and alert the immune system. But how does it know what's an intruder and what's just you? So your body is constantly running all of your T cells through a brutal training camp in your thymus, which is right about here. Any T cells that react to healthy human cells, they're the bad guys. They get destroyed. Only the good ones graduate. Scientists thought that this was the whole story until this guy ran a new experiment. He removed the thymus, that training ground, from mice. And as expected, the bad guys got through. Their bodies started attacking itself. But then he gave them T cells from other mice, so still no training camp, and their bodies stopped attacking themselves. Turns out there's another type of T cell doing extra surveillance all the time. And these 2 scientists figured out how it was controlled. It acts like a cop, keeping rogue cells in check, now known as your regulatory T cells. And this discovery has led to tons of new treatments for cancers and autoimmune diseases. If you think there should be more optimistic science and tech stories, follow along.
Do these images make you uncomfortable? If they do, this is a concept called uncanny valley, where people have a strange, uneasy feeling when they look at robots that are too lifelike, or anything that looks or acts human, but there's something off about them. This concept was introduced in the 70s by a professor at the Tokyo Institute of Technology named Masahiro Mori. He coined the term uncanny valley to describe his observation that as robots appear more human-like, they become more appealing, but only to a certain point. Let me know in the comments if you experience this.
I kind of get the creeps just a little bit when it comes comes to those wax figures, because I've seen some real good ones, and they, you might think that they're blinking at you and things like that. If you ever experienced anything like that, let me know in the comments, man, because it's definitely a real thing.
Creepy facts you can't unlearn. Drinking eye drops will kill you. They work by shrinking blood vessels in your eyes. And if ingested, they can shrink blood vessels that lead to your heart, inducing a heart attack. The autopsy will check for this though, so you won't get away with it. A fir tree can grow inside your lung. In 2009, Russian doctors were operating on a 28-year-old man to remove what they thought was a tumor. Instead, they discovered a small fir tree, and his symptom of coughing up blood was caused by the tiny pine needles puncturing his blood capillaries. The man must have inhaled a fir seed, and I guess the environment inside his lung was enough like the environment that firs normally grow in. The tiny tree measured 5 centimeters. The Amber Alert isn't named after a color. It refers to the abduction and murder of Amber Hagerman. A witness saw a man get out of his truck and snatch the child off her bike before speeding off. He called 911, but in child abductions, every minute is crucial, and there was no system in place to quickly spread this information. The case went nowhere until Amber was found floating in a creek. Her mother and others pushed for an emergency alert system to be set up in Texas that could quickly spread a child's description along with the vehicle that they might be in. They named the system Amber, and it quickly spread across the country. And I have more information on Amber Alert in a separate video. Follow for part 2.
People think it might be dermal vision, like we have senses in our skin. So I work with blind people, and I'm talking people with no eyes, people who were born blind, never seen light a day in their life, and in just a couple of days they're reading, and how do they go from one to the other? They open in the same areas as a sighted person does. We have windows when we open up, and so there's certain places where on our head and on our skin where we're seeing, and so that's why you'll see us, the sighted or blind, you'll see us kind of moving to see more, and it's because we'll have windows. So, for example, I worked with a blind woman with no eyes, like she blind since birth. And she's able to see like right here. She can see behind her head too, and down here really, really well. And
the scientific explanation for that is dermal vision.
No, that's just one explanation.
Okay.
It's more like a hypothesis that right now,
Okay.
like we really don't know what's going on. we are still we're in the baby stages of this stuff.
You know what's really unsettling about D'Angelo's passing? The end of this year marked 30 years since his debut album, Brown Sugar, dropped. The same album that made him a neo-soul legend. And oddly, when I went to his Instagram, I didn't see any posts, almost as if they were deleted. Very interesting. But if that's not strange enough, remember Angie Stone. The mother of his child passed earlier this year too. Their son lost both parents within months, and that's heartbreaking. But what really gets me is the pattern. Angie had just been speaking out about the Universal owing her money.
We began to research things to check on my royalties and my statements, only to find out a lot of my publishing, a lot of my royalties, my mechanicals, they have all pretty much been stolen. Come to find out, Universal Music has been receiving all my royalties, all my mechanicals.
And not too long after she's gone, I don't know, that just doesn't seem right. And let's remember Whitney Houston wanted her masters before she mysteriously passed away, as well as Prince. He was trying to get his masters from Warner Bros., and he dies from natural causes. Now, I'm not saying that it's impossible for D'Angelo to have passed from natural causes. Things like that do happen, but for him to pass right around the 30-year anniversary for his debut album, when he would have finally owned his masters, it just feels a little too convenient for the industry. But let me know what y'all think.
I mean, there aren't too many coincidences quite like that, If you look deeper into it, you always just got to follow the money. That's it.
This is nuclear physicist Dr. John Mullen. He discovered how to generate clean and free energy as opposed to oil. Days after this discovery, he died of arsenic poisoning. Dr. Don Wiley. He found the cure for HIV/AIDS. He mysteriously disappeared and later was found deceased. Dr. Mark A. Smith. He found a treatment for Alzheimer's. He passed away in a freak accident. This is Frank Suarez. He apparently found the cure for cancer. He mysteriously took his own life a couple of days later. I don't know, folks. This is suspicious, blowing my mind when I found out about it.
Uncurdling facts that you wish you never knew, part 5. Despite if you're using incognito mode, Wi-Fi routers actually keep logs of what websites you visit, and the owner of the router can check this whenever they want. So hopefully you don't have anything to hide. A woman in Russia had a shit ton of twins, triplets, and quadruplets with the same man, totaling to 69 children. Nice. Tarantulas taste like shrimp. According to some cannibals, the most delicious part of the human body is the eyeball, and they especially like licking them. The skin on your lips is the same skin that's on your butthole. Dolphins sometimes bite off the head of a fish and masturbate into the decapitated body. A bubble caused by false vacuum decay could be growing through our universe right now, destroying everything it touches, and we would have no idea because it travels at the speed of light. 2020, please no.
Tarantulas tasting like shrimp is wild, man. Hey, I'll just go eat the shrimp. I don't know about you.
These are human body parts that will disappear one day. Part 2. The ability to flap your ears will soon be a thing of the past. This is because humans have evolved to the point where we don't need to move our ears to detect predators, like how our ancestors did long ago. Next, it's been predicted that males will no longer have nipples, because of evolutionary changes no longer serving a purpose. Toes may also be a thing of the past, as human balance has slowly been moving away from them, and causing them to fuse with the whole foot. There was once a time when our ancestors had tails to help balance our bodies. Over the course of evolution, they disappeared, but we still have a tailbone in our bodies, and scientists are predicting that further down the line they will disappear entirely. Our natural reaction to cold or fear, goosebumps, will no longer be a thing in the future, as we no longer need the ability to project a larger size to scare off predators. And lastly, wisdom teeth are starting to disappear and will no longer exist, as they used to help our ancestors chew rougher food. But now that our food is much more processed, they're no longer necessary to eat hard food. Now the question is, which one of these will you miss the most?
Hey, now the complete form of all those things changing sounds just like an alien. You know, one of those great aliens that the ears, aren't really there. The feet, everything's fused. It sounds just like an alien if you ask me. That's pretty wild.
Nightmarish facts about your body that you probably shouldn't think about. Due to the brain's lack of pain receptors, brain surgery is often performed while the patient is awake and talking. And in some cases of brain surgery, the surgeon will pull your face forward like a banana. Men's nipples can be stimulated enough to produce milk. Once you turn 30 years old, you can expect to lose half an inch every 10 years. When you developed in the womb, your anus was formed before anything else. So at one point, you were nothing but an asshole. The acid in your body is strong enough to dissolve razor blades, which is why your stomach is in a constant battle to not digest itself. When you get a sunburn, your cells are dying to avoid becoming cancerous. A sneeze can blow out of your nose at over 100 miles an hour. So next time, be careful, because it's actually possible to break a rib simply by sneezing. If you've ever been on a roller coaster and feel like your heartbeat is in your mouth, it isn't your imagination, your organs are actually moving around inside your body.
Most disturbing things ever said by astronauts. In 2003, Chinese astronaut Yang Liwei was the first person from China to go to space. He was sent up all alone when suddenly at one point during the mission, he hears a knocking sound on the outside of his spaceship. He recalls it as someone knocking the body of the spaceship, like hitting an iron bucket with a wooden hammer. He wasn't even able to recreate it, and to this day, experts have no idea what it could have been. During the Apollo 11 mission in 1969, when Neil and Buzz were on the lunar surface, Neil Armstrong unexpectedly switches to a medical communication channel and spoke directly to the chief medical officer, saying, and I quote, "They're here, they're parked on the side of the crater, they're watching us." This was revealed in a documentary by former NASA employee Ken Johnston, but the original recordings are of course highly classified. Rumored to be a part of the infamous Apollo 11 missing 2 minutes, where on record Mission Control lost radio contact with the astronauts due to technical difficulties. In another 1995 documentary interview, former NASA astronaut Franklin Story Musgrave claimed to have been followed by a white 8-foot-long snake floating through space, saying, quote, "On 2 of my missions, and I still don't have an answer, I have seen a snake out there, 6, 7, 8 feet long. He said it appeared rubbery and followed him for quite a long time, floating in or near Earth's stratosphere." In the same interview, Musgrave also cryptically states that other civilizations have been around for millions of years that are doing unimaginable kinds of things. But they were probably all just joking.
Hey, for our sake, let's just hope that they were joking. I mean, an 8-foot snake in space is wild.
Exact moments TV stations switched to color television.
Through your presence here today, you are contributing to another broadcasting milestone. The cameras you see before you are color cameras. They are now transmitting a black and white picture. By pressing this button, which I now do, the cameras are transmitting a live color picture.
Für das deutsche Fernsehen.
Hey Jack, the colour! It's leaking through the window!
A filming thing all over my new carpet!
Look, it's filling the room! How are we gonna breathe?
Quick out from the Wollongong air! I'll try and hold it down! There it is!
Hey, look at me, I'm in colour! Come on in, it's lovely!
I can't hold it on very long. Here it goes, Harper!
Oh, what a beautiful room!
Et voici la couleur, au jour fixé et à l'heure dit.
Let's first of all address that elephant in the room. Are you a cannibal?
No. You know what you have to do to be a cannibal? You have to have actually eaten someone.
Have you ever eaten any human flesh?
No.
Not a question I thought I'd ever ask on.
Not a question I'd ever thought I'd have to answer, by the way. But no, never.
What do you feel that a large swathe of the public just think Armie Hammer is a cannibal?
If you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you.
So, was he telling me the truth?
No, he was lying to you.
Really?
Absolutely, and
well, he hasn't actually eaten human flesh, though.
We don't know what he personally identifies as cannibalism. We don't know whether it's related to consuming energy. Maybe it's biting. Maybe it's drinking blood. Who has any idea except Armie, right? But the thing that's so fascinating to me, and I'm gonna kiss your ass for just a second. Your questions were so fucking good, man. Your questions were so good through a lens of specifically being able to identify deceptive behavior in the target. I'm guessing it's just come from years of practice. I'm guessing you didn't practice your questions before you sat with him. But the one that's the most powerful to me is you asked him how he felt.
Yeah.
That's called, in strategic espionage, that's called a feelings question. When you ask a feelings-based question, it immediately gives you a window into whether the person is using their reactive brain to answer honestly or their creative brain to come up with a fitting solution. The indicators in that response from him, not only to that question...
Well, I'll tell you what, let's watch it again, and as we go, point out the things that if you were a CIA agent right now and you were watching this, what raised red flags? Let's talk over it as we watch it.
You got it.
Three of them. You just live to obey me and
so
be
right
my
there's
slave.
the first thing. You see him fiddling with his water and fiddling with his sleeve. He is physically showing his discomfort. And you just brought up that you're going to talk about this topic that for sure he knows is coming. So he's getting dry mouth from the nervousness. That's why he's drinking his water.
Body, would you come and be my property till you die?
He's taking a sip of water as he prepares. Now watch what happens next. He's going to start kinetically actually swiveling back and forth in his chair. His nervous energy is actually building up. He knows he has to prepare a story. He has to prepare to react in a way that's been choreographed. So you see the shaking head and the shaking in the full body in the swivel chair. You can also tell by the way his arms are being held, he's crossed his arms underneath the table. That's a closing body posture. A closing body posture demonstrates that you're feeling threatened. And he's leaning back to give himself distance. These are subconscious indicators that show he is not preparing to tell you the truth. He is preparing to tell you some other version of the truth.
You know what you have to do to be a cannibal?
He didn't answer your question. So here's a very interesting technique because he responded to your question with a question. It wasn't enough to just say, no, I am not a cannibal. It wasn't enough to just say, no, and I reject these claims. Instead, he uses almost levity or humor to counter your question with another question. And that's an escape technique whenever somebody's feeling under the pressure.
Now, as he played it back and read his body language, he was on point. The guy was nervous. And I had no clue that was still going on. People still, eating other people. That's just pretty weird. It's pretty weird. But yeah, he was on point with that.
Turns out your apple is not as vegetarian as you think. It comes with a protein boost. Now these mites are a natural part of the ecosystem and they are rich in B12, iron, amino acids. Americans unknowingly consume a pound of insect parts every year. It is recommended you wash your fruit thoroughly, and not just for little buggers, but especially for the pesticides that are sprayed on them. Honestly, it's a bigger problem. They are so harmful.
Hey, and by now we all know this, but you know that little ashy part right on the apple where you think it's just like, you know, dry a little bit? No, those are like bugs and insects, right? We just can't see it with the naked eye. That's still grosses me out just a little bit.
Contacting the devil or trying to summon Satan himself is a line that I don't think anyone should cross, no matter who you are or what you're doing it for, and Sam and Colby did just that in front of millions and millions of people. If you don't know who these two are, they're some of the biggest YouTubers in the game. They go around the world trying to find the most haunted spots and trying to contact the spirits, and this time they contacted the devil, and they themselves even said that they crossed the line. Check this out.
Worried about this? I'm very worried about this. You're not supposed to mess with this dark magic like this. And even if you don't believe, it could come back to bite you in the ass. And so I really want you to think about it before you do it, because like I said, like with my faith and me like believing in Jesus and stuff, like it makes me feel bad that my best friend would like put himself in a situation like this. So please be careful, but we've never crossed this line before. Just think about what you're doing.
So they do this really in-depth ritual, and Sam starts asking questions to Satan, and this woman is contacting the devil and replying on his behalf. And I think a lot of it is acting, I'm not gonna lie to you, but God is real and the devil is real, and I don't think this is something you should do, because if you keep knocking on the devil's door long enough, one day he might answer, and I don't think that's someone you want to reply from.
Well, looks like we all are back in for another episode of Mess Around and Find Out.
Spider's becoming self-aware.
I accidentally walked through this spider's web yesterday, so he rebuilt it since then, but like with like markers? Now you can see it way better? Oh my gosh. Hold on. He's like, you're gonna see it now. But that's him.
What happened was she walked through a spider web because she didn't see it. The very next day, this guy put up traffic cones on his spider web so she can see it, so she won't walk through it this time. So this spider understood someone might walk through this again, so I need to put some cones up. So he actually learned.
Genius, pure genius. But now, am I just to believe that spiders have some sort of conscience now, right? Is that what's going on here? I don't know if I can get behind that. It might be a thing, but that's deep. That's really deep. If you think spiders are starting to grow some kind of awareness now, definitely let me know. And I know all the iTrack fam in Australia might have a bit more experience in this department than most.
Figure AI just unveiled the Figure 3, their first mass-producible humanoid robot built specifically for your home. The new model ditches the dark gray industrial aesthetic for a lighter, more compact body composed of multi-density foam and soft washable fabric, giving it a warmer feel that's better suited for living spaces. It can handle all kinds of household chores, from cleaning to organizing. And when its battery is low, it simply walks over and charges itself through induction pads in its feet. What's remarkable is how quickly it learns. Helix, the AI platform powering Figure robots, mastered towel folding by watching just 80 hours of video footage. And CEO Brett Adcock expects the robot's capabilities to take massive leaps similar to what we've seen with large language models. And Figure's new BotQ manufacturing facility is expected to ramp up production of robots from 12,000 a year to 100,000, in part by having their own robots working the assembly line.
Buckle up, it's happening live. It's happening live. But you know what would be the smartest thing to do? Is to get like 100,000 of them, lease them out to people that want maids or want things like that. That's like the smartest play right now.
We've already got drones on the battlefield, and now we have wall hacks? Anduril just dropped Eagle Eye, which is a platform that enhances soldier perception through AI on this really cool looking helmet. Who would have thought warfare would turn into a gigantic video game? Now, I can't tell you exactly how they're doing this, but I have a guess. You're actually able to take Wi-Fi signals and convert them back to 3D spatial information. Those cat ears up there are doing something similar to that. Now, this is game-changing. I'm a man of peace, but if this is what the future has in store, I might have to go find myself some weapons of mass destruction, if you know what I'm saying.
Nowadays, all of us want to be rather large, don't we? We want to be big people.
We want to make a big impression. But arguably, this is a fast route to mental illness, because the graceful acceptance of your minuscule position in the cosmos is the gateway to calm and harmony.
Albert Einstein was famous for always going on walks in the woods. If you are stuck, get moving. Don't sit at your desk. Get the hell up, get a water bottle, get outside, even if you just need to walk around the block. Go start walking and thinking.
In your view, China is preparing the ground for what?
In the view of U.S. intelligence officials and government leaders now for years, China is preparing to be able to fight and defeat the United States military in a war.
We live in an age that people are so lazy to do any work. Everything is so instantaneous. They're used to pressing a button and getting all information, that they want also all their spirituality to happen the same way. They want to have like this out-of-body experience, but not to do any work. And Hashem gave us these opportunities that we can, through work, and obviously through serious work, we can access parts of the brain that we don't need substance, we don't need any external things. Unfortunately, especially talking about like people that are abusing these very dangerous substances, because people are not equipped and really developed their own inner life to understand what is happening and not what's the process that is occurring, a lot of people ruin their lives through these things because it's accessing parts that they don't have ways to understand what these things are. And they don't have any ways to integrate them in a healthy way.
Now, I would love for him to sit down and have this conversation with Mike Tyson. Because Mike Tyson might sit him down and let him know, hey, the toad set me free, along with everything else I got going on, right? I don't know. That would be a good conversation right there.
It's too late to follow your dreams? This 58-year-old college freshman football player begs to differ. Meet Tom Sillo, a man who decided it's never too late to chase the dream he gave up on decades ago. After a long career and having raised kids now in their 20s and 30s, Tom confessed to a friend that he'd always regretted not playing football in high school. So with some encouragement from his personal trainer and friend, Tom decided to apply to college, got in, and joined the team. And now he's practicing alongside players young enough to be his kids, who all adore him for the way that he supports them and cheers them on, as any good teammate does. He's even attracted national attention, landing an NIL deal with Aspercream for an undisclosed amount that includes a 4-year supply to help him through all those practices. And if Tom keeps playing all 4 years, he might even make history as the oldest college football player ever. But that's not ultimately what drives him. He says, I know there are people out there just like me holding themselves back. And I want to tell them, don't do it any longer. If you have a dream, follow through with it. He's proof that age truly ain't nothing but a number. And the biggest, best comeback stories happen when you decide you're just not done yet.
You know, I'm starting to think people are using that whole age is just a number thing a little too lightly. 58 years old and you're playing college football, I just think that you are really shortening your years real fast, you know, because football already is a full contact sport, which is, you know, giving people all kind of concussions and like out of all the sports, the most dangerous, right? So I'm not too sure about this specific situation. This is a very one-off thing, and I wouldn't suggest anybody 58 years or older go and join a full contact sport like this, especially with people that are half your age. Sounds like a recipe for disaster. I don't know. Let me know what you think though.
We need to talk about one of the worst accidents that ever happened on a horror film set, because I don't really see this moment talked about much. So this accident happened on the set of The Exorcist, which is already a movie that plenty of people think was cursed, hence why I did a whole episode about it. But in the movie, Linda Blair plays this little girl named Reagan who was possessed by a demon. And the way that the film shows you that she's possessed are by these contraptions that they built for her. This is one that makes her levitate, but there was also this one that made her thrash around. To use this device, Linda had to be sewn into a plank, that way her back was supported while it was thrashing around. And mind you, the people controlling this device were adult men, and Linda was a child. So during one take, Linda actually became untethered from this device, meaning that her back was no longer supported. And you can see it in this take, but watch as she starts crying after the director calls cut. That's because Linda had just broken her spine. The director and the other adults in the room all thought that she was acting up a storm when in fact her screams and cries were from her spine being fractured. Anyways, that's only one of the many wild things that happened on this set, so check out the episode for more.
Hey, now that sounds completely horrific. I hope she got the check of a lifetime. I really do. Wow.
According to the FBI, if you can solve this riddle, you may be smart enough to become a special agent.
I'm thinking she just ended up drinking more water than poison and just kind of flushed it out. I don't know. I'm not trying to be any kind of FBI agent, but let me know what you think anyways.
You think that every state has a different set of laws. We have a common law, right? Federal and all that. But then we have state laws. That's where they got us. Because how can you drive a car or have a gun or all these other things? You need a license for them.
That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, right? So it's in our Constitution, a right to bear arms. Why do I need a license?
Yeah, because there's no right to drive a car.
You have the right to travel.
Right. And this is why the cop stops you. I'm traveling my own capacity.
Yeah.
I'm not driving. This is the scam system that we're in when it comes to the money, sovereignty, corporation. When you establish a corporation, it's a corporation that's, it's dead. It's a dead entity. This is how their magic works, right? So like it's on your dollars, symbolism, Freemasons use symbolism, all this stuff that we use today, it's all occult magic. Riverbank, current, sea. I need to be liquid in order to pay for this. So we're using language of sea because there's more of the sea than there is of the land. So it's maritime admiralty law. It's the law of the sea that governs everything. This is what this is based on. So when you're at birth and you're like a ship, a doctor delivers who you are, and your manifest is your birth certificate. Why do we need birth certificates? Because they trade on it. The IMF has a deal to where every driver's license, birth certificate, any kind of license, they trade on the open market. You're a stock. So this is why you have Social Security. They're paying you pennies on the dollar to what you're owed already.
And I know about with debt, let's say I owe $20,000 for like a payment. Once I defer it, it gets to a point where people are just selling and buying my debt.
Yeah, so even with the credit system, so when they sell your debt, you're not responsible for that debt anymore. So when they call you, hey, someone's like, who are you? I don't have a contract with you. Somebody sold your debt, so hang up.
If I would have found out about Uber and how they were going to do it early on, based on the little information I know, I would have jumped all over this. Because I understand what a driver's license is. When you have a driver's license, that means you're operating in commerce. Right when I heard that they were doing it, I was like, fuck.
Yep.
It's absolutely 100% gonna go through and they're not gonna be able to stop it because that's exactly what a driver's license is.
Why do you think we have to register our car with the state every year? Why do you have to know where my car is at any given time and know the information and this and that? So if you park in a red zone, that's what they can do. They can tow your car. You own the loan or you're paying on the loan. Some stranger can just pick up your material.
They're using the statutes to manipulate the law.
Right, UCC, Uniform Commercial Codes. This is all part of the system. So when they put, a UCC lien on you, or they can dip into your account. And that's the thing, people really think they own shit, but they don't.
Yeah.
Hey, you see him get depressed at the end? He said, yeah, because he knew, man, when you start to open your eyes up and realize what's going on, it definitely might dampen your day just a little bit, but then at least you have the knowledge to kind of understand the world that you're living in, or the simulation, or whatever you might want to call it. It's interesting.
Oh my god! Dodging people. Oh my god! Oh, what the? It's on my face!
Il fait une énorme réaction, je crois.
Et il y a quelqu'un.
Okay, note to self. Stay away from eating scorpions.
This is a robot hand. This is a really big deal for prosthetics. This thing is tough. It's made for people with prosthetic arms that are connected to a person's body with sensors that measure the electrical signals from their brain to their hand. It's not made for my hand, but it's got a whole list of preset grips. We've got rock, point. This is finger wave. This one's called rude. This obviously isn't meant for my arm, but I can control it a little bit with these sensors that are detecting my electrical signals. So I can say I want one of those motions to mean finger wave. Ta-da! Or the open one to mean rock and roll. Yeah, there we go. I'm not an expert at using this, but the things that people can do with these hands is incredible. It works on a touch screen, it's water resistant, and it lets people feel things. It has sensors that detect pressure when you grip something and sends a vibration to your arm. It also works with robots, and they're testing it with brain implants. For more optimistic science and tech stories, follow along.
How realistic are flight simulators compared to actual flying? Sit down for this answer. It's a shocker. They are so realistic that we get completely qualified in the simulator. The first time I set foot on a Boeing 777 to fly the real airplane was with passengers in the back. Now you're going, wait a minute. That's the first time you've ever stepped foot on that airplane? Was when you were taking me someplace? Yep. Now I'm with a check pilot, and for the first 25 hours of flying in the actual airplane, I'm supervised by a supervisory pilot, but the FAA signs me off as qualified, type rated in the airplane based on the simulator alone. Sometimes the simulators are so real, you can't even tell that you're in a simulator. Ever had a close call on the runway with another aircraft? Not on the runway, but on a taxiway, yes. My biggest fear, the thing that keeps me up at night, is that somehow I'm going to go head to head with another airplane because there is no reverse in a commercial jet. And so both of you would have to admit what happened, and then you'd have to have somebody come out and tow you away. Very embarrassing.
You know that if you try to follow every law, that eventually you'd be breaking another one without realizing it? Laws literally contradict each other, and that's why we have lawyers to get our way. And sometimes what's best for you and everyone is actually against the law. So yes, sometimes break the law.
Is it possible to exceed the speed of light? And the answer is yes.
Sorry, just for a moment, sir. I mean, I thought Albert Einstein's theory of relativity made it absolutely impossible to exceed the speed of light.
People forget that Einstein had two theories, not one theory of relativity. The first theory says, yes, Einstein is the cop on the block. You cannot go faster than the speed of light. That's the special theory of relativity. But later, he created a more powerful general theory of relativity that showed that space itself is like a fabric that can be stretched and perhaps even ripped. And if you could rip the fabric of space and time, then we're now talking about hyperdrive technology.
Two of the largest private surveillance networks in America just teamed up. Amazon's Ring and Flock Safety have officially partnered. Here's what that means. The AI-powered cameras that track your car on the street can now ask your neighbor's Ring doorbell for video of you. They're connecting the street to your front door, creating one massive, searchable surveillance network for the police. And this isn't theory. 404 Media has already reported that ICE and the Secret Service have access to Flock's network. Now that network is about to get millions of new cameras from Ring. Remember, Ring was already fined $5.8 million by the FTC because its employees were caught spying on customers' private videos. You bought that doorbell to keep strangers out. Now it's letting federal agents in.
And if you've been paying attention, every piece of this super surveillance has been planned out. I'm talking about 4 or 5D chess. So this is not a coincidence. It's just they've been taking it step by step, and it's been going smoothly, effortlessly, to the point where you're going to look up and realize you are on candid camera on everybody's camera.
Let me tell you some things I just learned today. Water is the #1 substance we use in the world, but concrete is the second most used substance in the world. At age 26, Pistol Pete Maravich said, "I don't want to play 10 years in the NBA and die of a heart attack at age 40. He went on to play 10 more years in the NBA and died of a heart attack at the age of 40. What? An Oregon man in 2020 was driving a stolen car when he crashed into a woman driving another stolen car. Enrique Iglesias' grandfather conceived a child who was born 7 months after he died at the age of 90. At its real estate bubble peak in the 90s, Tokyo's total real estate value was priced higher than the entire real estate value of the United States. Denver, Colorado has an official mayor's residence that no mayor has ever lived in since it was donated to the city in 1998. After a volcano exploded with the energy of 500 Hiroshima bombs in 2022, the entire island that it was on virtually disappeared off of the map.
Mainstream says these were just burial chambers for bulls, the sacred bulls of Apis. There's a word called Bayanbet. It's this ancient Egyptian word which means sky metal. It also translates as iron of the sky. It's referring to meteors. For the ancient Egyptians, they found meteors. They recognized that it was the iron inside was a much harder material than the copper and bronze they had, that it was a celestial material. So they saw it as like this sacred thing falling from the heavens. And even the pharaoh's strength was often considered, it was often referred to as the bowl of the sky. So that's where I'm going. The meteors of iron, iron of the sky, bowl of the sky, it's relating to the constellation Taurus. And one of the original functions of these boxes, not to house dead sacred bowls physically, but the bowl of the sky, the celestial bowl, meteorites from Taurus that had iron in them.
Oxford researchers just confirmed what we feared. The internet, as we know it, is
dying. Now that is the opening line of a post referencing this chart. It shows that for the first time ever, AI-generated news articles have now outnumbered those written by real humans. Only 5 years ago, this was near 100% human, 0% AI. But in 2022, when ChatGPT launched, everything changed. Now, as someone in the news space, this was pretty shocking, especially since the post then goes on to say that projections say 90% plus will be AI by next year. And to make it worse, quote, the real crisis is model collapse. When AI trains on AI-generated content, quality degrades like photocopying a photocopy, rare ideas disappear, everything converges into generic sameness. Sounds like some freaking dead internet theory type shit. So naturally, do some research and turns out this wasn't from Oxford. Rather, an SEO company carrying out a study using AI to detect if an article was written by AI. Their own methodology says that many argue detecting AI is impossible or at best highly inaccurate. So that throws into question if this graph is even correct. But let's just say for a second it is. What the article also didn't include is the number of views each article had, because the total number of AI written articles is meaningless if no one is reading them. But what about the crisis of model collapse we were warned of if AI is trained on AI? Well, I went back to the original post and lo and behold, I found a human AI expert who was worked at Meta, Uber, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, and he said, quote, model collapse is widely considered not a real problem. He then lists the reasons why and provided research to back up his claim. Bro, and at this point, I am baffled. Everything this post told me was sus, but then there's the kicker. I looked for who wrote it, and it wasn't a who. It's an it. Perplexity AI. Bro, how the hell is AI gonna fearmonger humans about AI? God damn. Here's the thing. Just when I was about to wage war against the machines, I remembered, when you get hit by a car, you don't blame the car, you blame the driver. AI is not killing the future. Humans are.
I think as long as humans prefer human influencers, I think all will be well. But as soon as humans start to appreciate AI influencers more than human influencers, I think that's when all social media will start to go downhill. But for now, I'm pretty confident that humans prefer humans.
Meat has destructive effects on the soul. In Vegetarianism and Occultism, Leadbeater states how, to a clairvoyant, the astral body of a man who consumes meat looks unclean, coarsened, and rough, clogging their higher senses and making them more sensitive to negative, undesirable passions and emotions. He also states how a man with a coarsened and unclean astral body, such as is formed from frequent meat consumption, will have to spend the first part of his life after death in this degraded vehicle, and that this vehicle also draws in negative entities, making his life more difficult. Leadbeater also states how the atmosphere about slaughterhouses is charged with horror, pain, indignation, and resentment, which acts upon the entirety of the human race. This practice of animal cruelty acts like a cloud that induces constant feelings of ceaseless terror in humanity. Renowned clairvoyant Rudolf Steiner also corroborated this, often speaking about how when one eats meat, they absorb the emotional, astral remnants of the animal. Eating meat thus makes one more animalistic, materialistic, and more tethered to the physical realm rather than to the higher realms. He also spoke of how eating meat makes one more dogmatic and egotistical in their view.
See, I hear him, you know what I mean? I hear everything he's saying, but I don't know how that's going to stop anybody from eating a steak that was cooked just right. I'm just saying.
Researchers just spent 3 years listening to satellites with an $800 dish. What they found is a nightmare for anyone who uses a cell phone. Wired has revealed a huge portion of the world's satellite data is not secure. In just 9 hours, they captured the phone numbers of over 2,700 T-Mobile customers, along with the contents of their incoming calls and texts. This is happening because some remote cell towers use satellites to send data back to the core network, but they're sending it in the clear for anyone to grab out of the air. The researchers named their project Don't Look Up, saying the entire industry's security model was based on the assumption that no one would ever bother to check. Experts told Wired it's almost certain that foreign intelligence agencies have been exploiting this for years.
This just won the 2025 Nobel Prize. 3 scientists who answered a question that's now powering quantum computers. How big can a quantum system be? John Clark, Michel Devray, and John Martinez just won for demonstrating macroscopic quantum tunneling in the 1980s. Here's exactly what they did. Quantum tunneling has been observed for decades, particle passing through barriers that it shouldn't be able to cross. It happens at the atomic scale constantly, radioactive decay, semiconductors. But the question was, can billions of particles acting together as one system display quantum behavior? Or does the quantum world just disappear when you scale up? This team built a superconducting quantum circuit, big enough to actually hold in your hand, containing billions of electrons. They demonstrated that the entire system could tunnel as if it were a single quantum particle. Now, why does this matter? It matters because this opened up quantum engineering. If quantum effects work at microscopic scales, you can build with them, and you can control them, and engineer them. And this discovery is the foundation of superconducting qubits, the type of quantum computer that Google and IBM are building today. And these scientists are big in the field. Martinez led Google's quantum team when they claimed quantum supremacy in 2019, and Deveray is now chief scientist at Google Quantum AI. This truly is the year of quantum.
If space is freezing cold, how do satellites and spacesuits not freeze solid? We're told the vacuum of space drops to nearly minus 270 degrees Celsius, colder than dry ice, colder than the deepest part of Antarctica. Yet somehow, fragile metal machines are up there working perfectly. How is that even possible? Metal doesn't love the cold. It shrinks, cracks, and stops working. So what are we really seeing in those videos? Picture this, a satellite gliding above Earth. Half of it is burning in direct sunlight, over 250 degrees Fahrenheit. The other half sits in shadow at minus 250 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a 500-degree swing every 45 minutes. No cracks, no frozen wires, no broken parts, just flawless performance. And astronauts? They wear thin layers of fabric that somehow keep them alive in temperatures that would freeze solid steel. No ice, no foggy visors, just smooth movements against a pitch-black background that never seems to change. Ever notice how every space clip looks almost identical? Same flat horizon, same lighting, same glow, almost like it's filmed in one endless dark studio. And here's the strangest part. For all the satellites said to orbit Earth, have you ever seen real footage of one being repaired, drifting, or malfunctioning out there? Not CGI, not animation, actual raw footage no one has. So maybe the question isn't how they avoid freezing, but where they really are, because if space is truly that cold, metal should snap, batteries should die, and humans should freeze in seconds. Maybe the biggest mysteries aren't hiding deep in space. Maybe they're right above our heads, wrapped in a story we stopped questioning. If that got you thinking, keep watching to find out what comes next. This is only the beginning, so hit follow. Rely on your intuition and, question everything. This video is for entertainment purposes.
See, in life, you don't have to ask a whole lot of questions. You just got to ask a few of the right ones. And he definitely was asking all the right questions. And they definitely need to be answered ASAP before I start believing anything.
This job pays $150,000 a year, but most people wouldn't last a single shift. It's cranberry farming. To harvest, farmers flood the fields so the cranberries float to the surface thanks to a little air pocket inside each one. But here's the catch. When the water rises, so do the thousands of wolf spiders that live below. And the first thing they crawl toward is the farmer. Their bites aren't deadly, but they hurt. A lot. But the farmers still leave them alone because those spiders eat pests that could ruin the crops. $150K a year. Would you do it?
For $150K? No. Maybe for like $250K, we can. That's a starting point. But all them spiders and getting bit like that, probably not worth it over a year's time for $150K. Nah, but let me know if that's a job you might get into.
That I heard growing up was that you need to eat lots of carrots, and then carrots will help your vision.
Do you know where that came from?
No.
That's actually it was propaganda started in the UK. I believe it was World War II that Britain was being attacked by the Germans, and they were worried about German warplanes dropping bombs on them, especially at nighttime. And they had already established radar to detect warplanes coming, but they didn't want Germany to know that. So they put out their own propaganda saying, hey, our scouts can detect German warplanes better because they eat their carrots. Because carrots have beta-carotene, which your body can convert to vitamin A, which is essential for nighttime vision and retinal health.
Ah, okay. Because I also used to hear that if you ate carrots, you could see in the dark.
Yeah. So it is based on some, like vitamin A is essential for photoreceptors in the back of the eye, but
most people are not vitamin A deficient by far. And so it's pretty rare that we see vitamin A deficiency in the eye clinic, unless you happen to live in a place that's pretty malnourished.
See, they start that lie in grade school, right? When you're young, they try to tell you, oh, eat your carrots because you'll see better. I used to hear that lie all the time, but when you're young, you really don't think too much about it. It sounds even kind of crazy back then, actually.
Have you ever wondered how Helen Keller learned words? I mean, she was deaf and blind by the age of 2, so how did she end up writing 14 books? Well, at the age of 7, Helen met Anne Sullivan, an instructor who would become her lifelong companion and teach her language. So how did she do it? She started by using her finger to write words into Helen's hand. For example, she would give Helen a mug to hold and then write the word mug in her hand. However, words like mug and milk and drink soon became confusing because they were about similar things. But then she had a breakthrough. Helen had recently learned the word water, and she already knew the word mug. So to show her that everything has its own name, Anne took her to a water pump, gave her a mug to hold, and began filling the mug with water. As the water overflowed the mug onto Helen's hand, while Anne was spelling the word water, Helen realized the difference between the two and fully grasped the concept. She learned 30 words that same day, and eventually hundreds of others. This allowed her to learn Braille and eventually to read and write. And you can follow me for more interesting videos.
Isn't it funny how you can get a ticket for not wearing a seatbelt, but motorcycles don't even have them?
Hey, now, do I need to tell him or should you tell him? Let me know.
That's another thing, is like a lot of these people that are steeped in the occult and witchcraft and things like that and demonic and satanic rituals also have a lot to do with spies and spy agencies, different governments, intelligence agencies.
In the next 12 months, everything you know about movies and media is going to change. You will no longer need a camera, you won't need actors, you won't even need any money. You can describe it, you can make it. And that means Hollywood's monopoly on imagination is about to change. And they know this, they're preparing for it. Lionsgate just partnered with Runway AI. Disney has over 50 researchers rewriting productions with AI tools. Warner Brothers already uses algorithms to decide what actors get hired. And Netflix tested AI in its short film The Dog and the Boy with great success. We're even seeing new studios like Staircase that are producing feature-length films with AI right now. Deep Dub can translate voices across languages with perfect lip sync, you would never know. And text-to-video models like Veo and Sora 2 are creating scenes that look real, but this is just the beginning. This is a glimpse at what's coming. Within 12 months, we'll all become directors if we choose to, from the comfort of our own home. Every tool that once cost studios millions will soon live in your laptop or inside your cell phone. Actors will now compete with their digital doubles. Writers will compete with machines that never sleep and usually make no mistakes. And anyone, anywhere, will be able to create a film that looks like a $100 million production from their bedroom. So the question really isn't if this changes entertainment, it's who survives this. Because in the next 12 months, the entire creative world gets rewritten. That Star Wars story you always wanted to see, you can do it now. A version of Game of Thrones that you wanted, you can get that now. Whatever you choose is going to become what you watch. You get to write your own content. And even though this sounds like science fiction, it's something that's going to happen very soon. The only question is, what do you think? Is this a good thing for movies and entertainment? Or is this a disaster waiting to happen?
I mean, I think it could be a good thing if done right, you know what I mean? Because people stopped going to the movie theaters. Going to the movie theaters used to be a thing, but movies start to kind of fall off, and then Netflix started to do it better than the actual studios. So if it's done right, I think it could be a good thing.
You're fine for exactly 2 hours and 20 minutes at social events. Then suddenly you're wanting to commit crimes. This isn't random. Introverts have measurably different acetylcholine metabolism that depletes after precisely 2.3 hours of social stimulation, creating genuine neurological exhaustion. Extroverts run on dopamine from external stimulation. Introverts run on acetylcholine from internal processing. Social interaction burns through your acetylcholine stores at 3 times the rate of solitary activity. After 2.3 hours, you're literally running on empty neurotransmitters. The exhaustion is as real as running out of gas. Plan every social event around this window. Arrive 20 minutes late. Leave after 2 hours. Your brain stays functional. Push to hour 3 and you'll need 6 hours of recovery. Push to hour 4 and you're destroyed for 2 days. The ratio is exponential, not linear. But here's a recharge hack. 10 minutes alone in a bathroom, completely quiet, resets your timer by 45 minutes. Not checking your phone, that's stimulation. Complete sensory deprivation. Your acetylcholine partially regenerates with zero input. My social anxiety override teaches energy conservation strategies. Tap the link in my profile to subscribe for the complete social survival system. Your 2 to 3 hour limit isn't rudeness. It's neurobiology. Leave before you hit empty.
Hey, to all my introverts, thank me later. And probably round it down to about 2 hours, man. And that's about it. But definitely thank me later.
So, Lucille Ball. I Love Lucy?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so she's working on the Warner Brothers lot. Warner Brothers lot. She's there working. They're getting done filming. She goes and gets some dental work done. She goes back to the lot, and she keeps hearing all the time while she's there, while she's driving, she keeps hearing this like just like vibration almost in her jaw. And it keeps happening. Every time she goes back to the Warner Brothers lot, every time she's driving in her car, and she's like, this sounds like Morse code or something, because it like keeps tapping. She goes and she talks to the people at the lot. She says, there must be something going on. And it turns out they look into it, and underneath the ground is a secret Japanese radio station.
What the heck?
What? Spies. Legitimate Japanese spies that were underground at a radio station. So they were literally doing Morse code. She recognized it and literally reported it, and they busted these guys.
No way!
It's nuts.
I don't
trust your
I
stories
know, after
anymore.
last- No, 100%.
I'm going to show you a leaked photo beyond the ice wall, as well as who exactly sent it. And this place exists alongside one of the actual areas on the ice wall where there's land, but we're not sure which gate or area in Antarctica this actually is. Now, this isn't a new photo. I'm going to show that one to you next, but this is the one that came out about a year ago, and a lot of people actually think that this one is real. It shows vegetation, an ice wall, and an advanced egg-like type city going on back there. Now, here's the new photo of what is supposedly beyond the ice wall, which shows vegetation next to ice, which is what Admiral Byrd talked about when he flew over Antarctica. And a lot of people are thinking that this is actually up close to that egg-like type city. And now let me tell you who actually leaked this photo. The person who leaked it on their Telegram was Valiant Thor, who, if you've never heard of him, he's from Venus, supposedly, and he came to Earth.
So this digital ID situation is really starting to escalate. I talked about this a couple weeks ago, but the UK is starting to make it mandatory for people to get a digital ID if they want to work there.
I am announcing this government will make a new free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that.
Well, other countries like Vietnam are already taking extreme measures because they've shut down the bank accounts of 86 million people who refuse to comply and get digital IDs. People in the UK have already been protesting this because they believe the digital ID infringes on their privacy. But many believe that this is deeper than just privacy concerns, but instead the beginning stages of a mark of the beast-like system. The Bible makes it very clear that at the end of days, you will not be able to buy or sell anything if you do not have the mark of the beast. But leave a like and let me know what you think about all this in the comments.
Are you the type who listens to the same songs over and over and over again? Well, it might be for 3 very specific reasons, aside from the fact that you're probably kind of old. However, it's not just because you don't get new music anymore. There's actually some science behind it. Researchers looked at 15 years of music data from 40,000 people and found that the older you get, the more likely you are to stick to the same handful of songs. Here's why. First, good old nostalgia. The songs you listen to as a teen or young adult basically become the soundtrack of your life. So when you hit play on those tracks, it feels like stepping back into a simpler time. It's like comfort food, but for your ears. Number 2, your taste gets more defined. When you're younger, you'll basically try out anything on the charts or on the algorithm. But once you're older, you stop wanting to waste time on stuff you only kind of like, and double down on the artists and genres that you really truly love. And number 3, you just stop chasing new music. Teens and young people like to stay on top of what's hot and new as a way to connect with each other and stay engaged with the zeitgeist. But as you get older, you've pretty much found your vibe, and so putting in that effort just doesn't really appeal to you. So sure, if you're still bumping that same favorite album from 2008 or 1998, if you're old enough that 2008 feels like 15 minutes ago, hypothetically, yeah, you may be a little stuck in the past. But it really just means that you like what you like. And science says that's all just part of becoming older and wiser.
I mean, I must just be an outlier because I like to hear new music. I like expanding my musical palette, because it's kind of like saying you just saw a new color, all right? Like, we know all the colors, right? But what if you get to see a new color? It's the same thing with music. It's like there's always a new sound. There's always a new frequency. And that's kind of exciting to me. But definitely let me know. Do you like to stick to what you know? Or do you like to expand your musical palette as well? You know, tap in. Let me know.
Movie fact that you love to tell people.
Angela Lansbury starred in a movie called Gaslight.
Okay.
And that movie is the origin of the phrase that we use for gaslighting.
That's so interesting.
The whole plot of the movie was her husband was tricking her by lying to her and trying to make her crazy by saying reality wasn't what it was. And the whole point was he was trying to drive her crazy for a purpose. And that's where the term comes from. If you look it up, it actually says this movie was derived, or this phrase was derived from the movie.
That's a solid movie fact.
It was Murder, She Wrote, like Angela Lansbury.
You ever wondered why so many celebrities end up depressed and sometimes even unalive themselves? The answer is a principle called the hedonic treadmill, and basically this states that no matter what happens in your life, whether it's positive or negative, eventually you'll return to a baseline level of happiness. A perfect example of this is lottery winners is typically the happiest they ever are is right after they found out they've won. Typically, however, a few years after winning the lottery, their baseline happiness resets and the money no longer really makes them happy. In some cases, it makes them even more depressed. Now, the opposite can come into effect with someone who's received a life sentence in prison, as initially they're going to be extremely sad and depressed about this event. But after a few years, their baseline happiness is going to reset. There's going to be things during the day they look forward to, and they're going to find happiness in their time. This explains why someone like Liam Payne, who outsiders would say had it all, money, an attractive girlfriend, a successful career, would be so depressed, because deep down he knew he would never reach that same happiness as when he was 16.
People have been asking me which curse was more dangerous to get. I did get a curse made for me in New Orleans by a guy called Sen Elias, who took a coffin nail, wrapped it around some of my own hair, and blended it with his powerful magic practice. I then went to India and asked a tantric practitioner to call upon his goddess Chinnamasta to judge me. Now, I don't know that that was actually a curse. If anything, I think that gave me an awakening to what I was actually trying to look for in this crazy, unusual, ridiculous concept that I had. But then I take it another step forward and enter into a blood pact with Satan. That, for me, was difficult. I think we all agree that in its concept, it's a very unique and powerful spirit or energy. Engaging directly with that to me, I think, started to really play on my subconscious and began to haunt me in my dreams. So would I rate any of those more or less dangerous? I don't know. I would suggest you don't try and find out for yourself.
You know why you don't gotta try it for yourself? Because he was dumb enough to do it, man. That's crazy. Pure craziness. Only somebody that just has nothing to live for, or maybe an NPC, something crazy, man. Because why would you want to even make a blood pact with the devil? Why? Hey, good on you. Good on you.
One-hit wonders only had one hit because they didn't sell their souls. They didn't say yes to Diddy or, whatever that devil might be. They got the one shot. It was supposed to do the deal and said, oh, no. And then they're like, bye-bye.
If you got your paperwork right, all you need is one hit anyway. Like, you'll be straight for life.
When I was in Australia in 1999, I was with Kerry Packer, the richest guy in the world, and he was known as a big gambler. He would go to Las Vegas, and he was known for losing 10, 20, $30 million on a weekend. And I was with him, and I said, you like to gamble? Oh, yeah, I love to gamble. He says, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking you read the reports that I lose 30 million this weekend, and it looks like I lose money. I make money every time I go to Las Vegas. I go, how? He goes, let's go to Las Vegas, and I'm going to show you. So we hop on his plane, we go to Las Vegas. And on this particular weekend, he lost $27 million. And I'm there with him, and I said, he didn't have a good weekend. Oh, yeah, I did. He goes, I made big money this weekend. What are you talking about? And he goes, look, what day is it? I go, it's the 31st of the month. He goes, it's the last day of the month. He goes, it's also the last day of the quarter. This casino is a publicly traded company. They just made a windfall. That means when the numbers come out, the stock price is going to skyrocket. So I am buying stock tomorrow morning. And when the stock price skyrockets, I will sell the stock, and I will not only get my $27 million back, but I will make money on top of it.
Meet Maya Angelou. I love this woman. She was such a gentle spirit. So let's find out exactly what made her who she was. When you look at her, there's just a sweetness and a pleasantness and a wish she was everybody's grandmother kind of energy about her. Of our 9 face shapes, she's a classic iron face. Strong, stable, stubborn. It's that Winston Churchill face. That isn't her energy, and yet that is who she is. This woman is strong. She is stable, and she is stubborn. Never came across in anything that she did, but I guarantee that's who she was. There is something so fascinating about this face, and it has to do with her eyes. When I look at the eyes, I always compare the right to the left. The right eye is what we show to the world. It's our public persona. It's our mother's influence. It's what we want the world to see. The left eye is our true inner private self, and we don't want the world to see this. This is a hidden entity. That doesn't mean it's bad. So if we cover up her left eye and just look at that right eye, that is as loving of an eye as you're ever going to see. I wish I could put math to what I'm seeing here, and if you see this, it means this. And it's just your first sense of what it is probably what it is. Now, cover up that right eye and look at that left eye. There is such deep sadness that it looks like she's about to burst into tears. Why would she hide that? It is such a dramatic indicator. I think she's sad about mankind because of just her passion and her love for mankind. And that's why we're seeing that in a very hidden way. These deep lines here, they're called falling lines. Falling means purpose and spiritual strength. She's the epitome of spiritual strength. An incredible lady. A little bit of waviness to her hairline. I bet her teen years were interesting. I think she used life experiences to mold her into who she was. And she took a lot of things that could have been taken as bad and turned them into just this unbelievable, beautiful human being. Health-wise, she does have some kind of deep lines right in here. That's an adrenal indicator. There's some puffiness underneath the eyes, kidney deficiency. She probably had some arthritic activity. Outside of the eyebrows are kind of thin. Western medicine, this is a history of a thyroid issue. It's called a Hertog sign. It also can indicate a lack of sibling support. I'd be anxious to see where she was in the birth order. My guess is she was either first or last born or only child. Again, I don't know her history in that regard. Also, her pupils are a little bit unlevel. This indicates traumatic brain injury or concussion. I think she is such a sensitive, loving human being that the concussion that appears to be here was more likely emotional, and her unhappiness with some of the things mankind is doing to itself. Again, hope you enjoyed Maya. I certainly enjoyed reading her face.
And a lot of what he said definitely played out publicly. You can see it in Maya Angelou's efforts towards mankind. So yeah, he's pretty spot on for sure.
I truly believe it was Cam Newton. He was trying to get the brother Jason Wilson to do a ritual. And what you're about to see, like I said, guys, a lot of people are not going to be able to see it. It's a demonic spirit on Cam that's going to manifest. Guys, open your eyes.
It's going to look similar like this. We got your camera or my camera right here, your camera right here, our camera right here. It's going to be one finger. Then we're going to add the pinky, then add the thumb. And when I say all together, we're going to say what? One love. You ready? Here we go. One finger. You got to do it with me, brother. That's just the sign of it.
Okay, so I hear you. Can I share something else? Please. This symbol is called Mana Canudo. It's a satanic salute as well. Google it. So for me, listen.
Google this sign.
Listen to me. Listen. Cam, listen.
Y'all see the spirit? So what you're seeing right now in Cam, it ain't him, bro. It's a demonic spirit.
Hey, tell me, why did Cam put his head down when he got put on blast? I don't know. Some suspicious about all that, man.
So this became available today, and I'm surprised more people are not talking about it on social media. The Neo home robot, you can actually pre-order it. It's actually $4.99 a month, $20,000. Gives you full ownership. It's pretty cool. One thing that's concerning about it is if you wanted to like put dishes away, tidy the house, people are still going to have to remote in with it with like a headset, like the Meta Quest. So it's not fully autonomous yet. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
This robot does your chores. It's finally here. But how it's able to do them is where things get pretty weird. Neo is a first of its kind humanoid robot, and at the heart of it, it's a chores robot that will fold your laundry, tidy up your room, take out your trash, whatever is needed around the home. It will be available as a subscription service costing $499 a month, but here's the really weird part. If you wanted to do more complex tasks, you have to let a human teleoperator take control of Neo and see inside your home through the robot's camera. The company's CEO says rest assured there are several layers of security to prevent it from hurting people, but you do have to be careful because first it does your laundry and then Neo does your wife.
If any one of the iTrack fam already got it, definitely drop in the comments, is it worth getting or not? I'm definitely not ready for one yet. I want them to get all the bugs out first. Then we might be able to think about it, but definitely drop it in the comments if you have one.
When you go down that rabbit hole of the celebrities covering up one eye, doing the sixes over one eye. Might have been Jeremiah Cohen. He had one of those shows where he was saying it's all of them. And he would have montages that were 2 hours long, and it would be nothing but celebrities covering up their eye. And I would watch that many of them doing it, and I thought, okay, I guess it's all of them. But then part of your brain would say, no, wait, it can't be all of them. It's too many of them for it to be all real. It like breaks your mind to see everybody doing the one eye symbolism.
Yeah, because you're like, it can't be all of them, because we've got our emotions involved, right? So-and-so played a good character that we fell in love with in this movie or this TV show. There's no way they're involved, and then you look it up and it's like, they did the same things. They did the same exact things. They had the same symbolism, the same everything. I'm convinced, personally, if you're in the limelight, they will not risk giving you access to the public if they can't control you.
Hey, truth hidden in plain sight, man. Don't act like you don't see it.
Hurricane that just hit Jamaica does not sit right with me. This wasn't just some regular storm. This was the strongest hurricane ever recorded in the history of Jamaica, with winds reaching up to 185 miles per hour. This is also the strongest hurricane in the world in 2025. About 77% of the island's electricity has lost power. People are stranded on top of rooftops, and lives have been lost. But this is where it gets strange. On Jamaica's own government website, they outline something called Vision 2030 Jamaica. This is a national plan directly tied to the UN's 2030 agenda, and one of its core goals, sustainable smart cities. Now call me crazy, but what faster way to speed that up than completely wiping out old infrastructure and rebuilding from scratch? Is this coincidence or is this convenience? And it gets even weirder. Meteorologists and hurricane hunter crews literally flew into the eye of the storm. And take a look at some of this footage. Some people even called it unreal. Maybe it is unreal. And it's not just Jamaica. Los Angeles, also part of the 2030 agenda, faced some of the worst wildfires in its history. Now I know this is speculation, a little bit of conspiracy, but what I do know is that this does not sit right with me.
I think people definitely are aware at this point in time that there are weather manipulated machines out there. So, no, not too many secrets about that.
Darkest business entity you can start in the U.S. We've talked with ex-mafiosos who spent decades in prison. And they say, Nathan, I wouldn't join the mafia today. I'd start a church because it's the most dark place it's the darkest place you can play.
One study showed that 23% of people who came forward talking about a near-death experience talked about a hellish experience. People are very reticent to even come forward and talk about it because it's another dimensional experience of life. How do you explain other dimensional experiences in our limited 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time when there's more than that?
Well, it kind of feels like when you read Revelation, it's like I think John's trying to do that. John.
Well, it is. And what these people say completely correlates. I mean, it's amazing.
Joe Rogan doesn't have a degree in broadcast journalism, yet he runs the world's most popular podcast. Frida Kahlo didn't have a degree in art, yet she's one of the most renowned artists in the world, decades after she's passed. Jane Goodall didn't have a degree in anything, let alone science, when she first started studying chimps. These are all the points that Jim McKelvey, the billionaire co-founder of Square, now Block, was making during his presentation I saw. He said that all progress is made by unqualified people, and he anchored it in his own story. He said that he was a glass blower who was trying to sell one of his works of art to a potential customer. The guy wanted to buy it. He had a credit card, but he had no way of accepting the payment. He lost the sale. That's what gave him the idea for Square. He knew Jack Dorsey from college. Jack had gone on to create Twitter. He reached out to Jack, and the rest is history. The point that he wanted to make, that I'm reiterating, is that all progress is made by unqualified people. And more often than not, we take ourselves out of opportunities that we could potentially execute on, telling ourselves, oh, we don't have the qualifications, it's not available to us, oh, we're not ready yet, blah, 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 blah. More often than not, it's just fear. False evidence appearing real. This message, consider this message the sign that you've been waiting on. You have what you need to succeed. You have what you need to move forward. Please believe in yourself and take the first step.
Man, I couldn't have said it any better myself, man. He took the words right out of my mouth. Get up and go do whatever you decide you want to do. You're going to have some bumps, some failures along the way, but it doesn't mean anything. You got to just keep going.
Definitely going to be a breaking point to which I've discussed with my family how I will probably have to start driving Uber or DoorDash. Second jobs are a real thing with a lot of controllers right now. You know, it's already inherently a stressful job. You know, we have to be 100% right 100% of the time. And we do a really good job of training everybody from the ground up how to mitigate that stress and leave it at the door. But, you know, as many others have said, financial stress is one of the worst things you can have, right? And when you start introducing that into a controller's head, now it's kind of becoming real, and they can't put that at the door. They're going to have to start thinking about that and making the tough decisions with their family as to how do I put food on the table? How do I pay my electric bill? How do I put gas in my car to go to work? Stuff like that.
You didn't know the government has been shut down for almost a month at this point, and quite literally every single federal employee is suffering. Specifically, the people who work in the airline industry have not gotten a single paycheck in almost 4 weeks, but considering most of them have mortgages to pay and children to take care of, they are extremely desperate to get money wherever they can. As a result, most of these employees are forced to work jobs like Uber and DoorDash, with some even allegedly tapping into their retirement funds just to pay for groceries. And at this point, it doesn't seem like the government shutdown is going to end anytime soon.
Hey, I actually feel for those air traffic controllers because I couldn't imagine learning a trade and then not being able to get paid for it, you know? And they put in a lot of work, and it definitely is not easy. So, man, I hope it all gets resolved fast.
The top 5 jobs for psychopaths today is clergy, to become a pastor.
Are you serious?
Because it's unlimited authority, or potentially unlimited authority. It's power. It's dominion over people. And that's the character type of a psychopath is attracted to jobs like that.
Ever wonder how the government actually watches social media? It's not a room full of agents scrolling, it's this. A piece of software called Signal Labs, an AI-powered surveillance platform that ingests over 8 billion social media posts every single day. It uses computer vision to identify objects and people in your photos, it uses sentiment analysis to track online narratives, and it uses geospatial analysis to pinpoint your location from metadata. It's software that turns the entire internet into a single searchable spy database. And we know who's using it. A new $5.7 million contract just revealed that ICE is deploying the system for real-time data analysis for criminal investigations. This is just a piece of the actual surveillance infrastructure that's analyzing your posts right now.
And we all know them people were watching, but they done got real good at it now.
The Bible says that Mary had an immaculate conception, and that's really light. But what we are able to do now is take a man's adult skin cell, like a skin biopsy from you, turn that DNA into an egg, and fertilize it with another man's sperm in a petri dish to create a baby. So that's immaculate conception. There's no egg. There's no female.
I mean, I won't lie and say that, you know, the evil eye didn't really take a toll on what, you know, we thought was a beautiful thing that we could maybe inspire people to, not mimic, but just inspire people to love.
He was doing a whole lot of double speak in that clip right there. I mean, he put evil eye and love in the same sentence. And then he said this is the reason why he didn't work out, you know, with his ex. Now, we all know they were drinking each other's blood. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. So I'm not quite sure if you know, like, a bit deeper what he was really trying to say, because he wasn't clear about it at all. Unless it was just way over my head. It just seemed kind of out of place, you know what I mean? Let me know down in the comments what you think he meant.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but just a PSA. The Journal of Economic Behavior and Organization found that countries with higher levels of education and income consistency show lower levels of religious belief.
He had a kid at 93 years old and wants even more because he thinks he's found the secret to longevity, and it sparked a bit of a global debate. Dr. John Levin specializes in anti-aging medicine and lost his first wife, whom he had 2 children with, who are now 60 and 62. A year after his wife passed, he married a new woman. Despite having a 57-year age gap, she decided that if she lost her new husband, she wanted a part of him in the form of a child. So they had a kid of their own. Many have criticized that choice, but John is hopeful he'll see his son, who's now 1, reach his 21st birthday. He's even gone as far to recommend every father over 80 to have another child. What do you think?
I just think that even if you could live longer, you're not going to have the energy you're going to need to keep up with a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old. It's, it seems kind of odd on that end of the spectrum, you know what I mean? Let me know in the comments if you think you'd have a kid at, 90 or 100, it seems kind of odd to me, but let me know if that's something you do.
Navy SEALs use a classified breathing technique that stops panic in 45 seconds, and neuroscientists just figured out why. Left nostril breathing activates your right brain hemisphere and your parasympathetic nervous system simultaneously. Your nostrils naturally alternate dominance every 90 minutes, controlling which brain hemisphere leads. Right nostril equals left brain, sympathetic activation, alert and stressed. Left nostril equals right brain, parasympathetic activation, calm and creative. Brain scans showed immediate amygdala deactivation and prefrontal cortex coming online. This isn't meditation. It's mechanical nervous system override through nasal nerve manipulation. Try it now. Block your right nostril and breathe left for 60 seconds. Feel the shift? That's your nervous system switching modes. The Neural Reset Protocol incorporates advanced breathing techniques that permanently reduce panic susceptibility. Tap the link in my profile for military-grade calm.
Neuroscientists took people who had their skulls opened, and so they were putting electrodes in their brain while they were having surgery, and they stimulated all the different emotions. And then they asked them, love, happiness, fear, anger, all that. Which one do you want me to stimulate again? The answer was universally anger. Anger is the emotion. When we're given the option to hit it, we will. And the reason I think is anger is devoid of anxiety and uncertainty. And the thing that people hate is being anxious and uncertain. But when you're mad, you have clarity. You know exactly what to do. You feel right. You feel righteous. You are ready to move.
You know what? I almost feel like that's kind of debatable. I just feel like every time anger is in the mix, nothing good comes of it. Like never. You might feel like you're right. The reality is the actions that come out of anger never usually lead to anywhere positive. If I'm missing something, drop it in the comments, man. This is definitely a debatable topic.
Okay, so America is so right now that we don't even care that a comet the size of the island of Manhattan is rapidly hurtling towards Earth. NASA has confirmed that there is a comet, the Atlas comet, that is the size of Manhattan, that may or may not contain alien technology or be a spaceship. So much so, NASA has sent a defense probe into space to protect us from the aliens. A NASA coordinated group reportedly begun efforts to observe Comet 3I Atlas after it was seen emitting a never seen before alloy and exhibiting other strange behaviors. The cosmic anomaly, like I said, the size of Manhattan, is an interstellar object that has alien tech and has been added to the list of threats by the International Asteroid Warning Network. The comet is emitting a signature of nickel that appears to be industrial-grade nickel alloy, not naturally occurring. This composition is unusual because natural comets typically have a ratio of nickel to iron that is similar, whereas 3-1 Atlas shows significantly higher nickel emissions without iron and directional thrusts, meaning it's thrusting, it's slowing down, it's speeding up, it's going left, it's going right. What are we talking about? You guys to realize how fucked up the world is that potentially aliens are coming and we don't care. Happy Saturday. Hope you enjoy your week.
Hey, I'm pretty sure we all care, right? But what are we gonna do? I mean, I'm open to suggestions. I'm even willing to help, whatever the solution might be. But it seems like all we gotta do is wait and watch, really, because You know, it sounds pretty sci-fi, you know what I mean? It sounds pretty out there.
Way dreams come true, and you can make your dreams come true if you manifest and if you go after that goal, that North Star, knowing that along the way there are going to be roadblocks and obstacles. And my thought was always that when you run into a roadblock or an obstacle, it's an opportunity.
Hey, dreams definitely do come true, but the path to get there, like he said, it's not easy. It ain't easy. That's why most people will never, ever reach their dreams, man. They'll settle for mediocrity, and that's about it.
Not all movie magic.
Talk to us.
That's a lot of real magic. They spent some time in L.A. at the Magic Castle learning. They had instructions, and some of them are really good at it anyway. And the ones who are not really good at it, they get those instructions. I'm amazed because you get in it. I think I'm like everybody else. I like to know, how did you do that? You know,
I'm with you. Yeah,
I'm with you. But they can't. Really show you.
No. That's the fun part.
Right.
Yeah, you get angry at magic tricks.
I do. Real magician never reveals.
There's some people with the rarest genetics in the world. So this kid, Nong Hui, has a genetic mutation called leukoderma that gives him almost full night vision and makes his eyes glow in the dark. But the only downside is they're extremely sensitive to any light. Rachel Warwick has a condition called aquagenic urticaria, which means she's allergic to any form of water. Any water that touches her skin, whether it's rain, salt water, showers, or sweat, turns it red and makes it burn for hours. And if she gets upset and cries about it, that burns too. A man named Paul Carrison's entire body turned blue one day and never went back because he developed a condition called argyria thanks to taking too much medicine that contained silver in it. Charlotte Madison actually has a condition called uncombable hair syndrome, which has permanently made her hair look like this ever since she was a baby. This girl named Caitlin Thornley went viral back in 2015 because one day she started sneezing every 3 seconds and really couldn't stop for months. It's been 10 years and legend has it, she's still going. Then here's two twins that have something called Prader-Willi syndrome, which means no matter what they do or how much they eat, they'll forever be hungry and it never goes away. Well, there's only 43 people currently in the world that have golden blood, which means it can be donated to anybody.
Here's what they don't tell you about Mozart. Yes, he was one of the most talented musicians that ever lived. He composed his first pieces at age 5, and they're really good. But what made him a legend was his relentless work ethic. According to his letters, adult Mozart composed up to 8 hours a day, juggling teaching and concerts. But here's where it gets wild. While his wife was in labor, Mozart composed in the same room, pausing only to comfort her between contractions. And get this, in 1791, he wrote a 2.5-hour opera, La Clemenza de Tito, 192 pages of music in just 18 days. They say work expands to fill the time allotted for its completion. Mozart didn't just have talent, he held himself to a schedule and a standard that few can even imagine.
One thing you had to unlearn from your childhood.
I don't owe anybody a relationship just because they are family.
Imagine your body growing so fast that doctors have to amputate your leg and then months later it starts growing back. That's the true story of Mandy Sellers, a woman born in 1975 with a mystery that baffled every doctor she met. From the waist up, she was completely normal, but from the waist down, her legs were huge and were over 200 pounds, which is heavy enough to crush her wheelchair, yet somehow she kept walking. She got her degree, learned to drive, even traveled the world, while doctors warned her that one day her legs could literally kill her. And by 2010, that day finally came. A massive infection spread through her bloodstream and surgeons had no choice but to amputate her left leg above the knee. Mandy thought it was over, the pain, the weight, the endless surgeries, but only a few months later, something weird happened. Her amputated leg began regenerating and doctors couldn't believe it. Her tissue was multiplying on its own, rebuilding fat and muscle as if her body had ignored the amputation entirely. So basically, her body wasn't healing, her legs would just grow non-stop. But instead of just giving up, Mandy became her own experiment and began taking cancer drugs to shut the mutation down. And thankfully, within months, her legs started to shrink shrink with the first real progress of her life.
Hey, see, there's something we can't just pass up. I mean, her leg was regenerating after it was amputated. People think stuff like this doesn't happen, but apparently it is absolutely happening. And that's wild.
Study that came out not too long ago that said on average, our food has 40% less nutrients than it did 100 years ago. And some foods might have 75% less. So if you're eating an apple or tomato, I mean, I don't know if anyone's ever noticed this, but sometimes I've bitten into an apple. I'm like, this tastes like a bag of water or a tomato. It doesn't actually taste like food. And part of that's due to the nutrient density. I mean, it's like you'd have to eat 4 apples today in terms of nutrients to equal the apple that you might have had, 100 years ago.
Did you know that the winning lottery numbers aren't random? If you had a powerful enough computer or someone really fucking good at math, you could theoretically predict the numbers. This actually happened in 2003. Jerry and Marge Selby figured out the algorithm for their state lottery and ended up grossing over $26 million over the course of 9 years. They made a movie about it with Bryan Cranston called Jerry and Marge Go Large. To create the lottery, we've made a program that systematically chooses random numbers. Which doesn't make sense, right? It can't be random if it's designed. And we designed everything. So how do we create true randomness? We look at this series of numbers and think, this is random. Because we think randomness should have this kind of equal distribution and look kind of even, so to speak. But this could be randomness too. We just don't like that because our brains are pattern recognition machines, and we think patterns should look a certain way because we hold on to childish beliefs. This set of random numbers is just as likely to win the lottery as these numbers are. Bet you don't like that. Even if our smartest people are
Things you don't want to see looking at you at night. See the eyes? I see you. Yep.
Hey, the creeps.
Deeper you study something, the less certain you become. Psychologists sometimes call this the reverse Dunning-Kruger effect, a point at which greater knowledge reveals just how much you don't know. At first, learning feels empowering. You go from total ignorance to quick confidence. But as you keep digging, every answer reveals 10 more questions, and the boundaries of your ignorance expand faster than your understanding. But it's important to realize that that's not failure. That's what real mastery feels like. Most people get discouraged at this point, though. They mistake uncertainty for stupidity, when in fact it's a sign of intellectual growth. Even the world's top experts, physicists, philosophers, economists, can't know every layer of their own field. Knowledge is infinite, and human cognition is finite. The goal of self-mastery then isn't to know everything. It's to know what matters, to determine what you need to know and when. That's why the most effective thinkers become what's called T-shaped people. They go deep in one area, developing true expertise, but also broad enough to cover many areas. So if you ever feel lost or inadequate because you don't know enough, good. That just might be a sign of real intelligence.
Y'all are not gonna believe this shit. Albania, the place that has the AI minister, the world's first AI minister. This AI minister has told the Albanian parliament that she's pregnant. You ain't hear what I just said, right? The AI minister told the Albanian parliament that she's pregnant, and she's pregnant with 83 AI children. And all 83 of her children is going to assist parliament. These AI agents, baby AI, is going to assist parliament in running Albania. Mind you, if you go back to the video that I posted in the beginning, I told you this was going to happen. And this is for entertainment purposes only. And listen to this shit. This AI minister shared with the parliament that she was hurt. You heard what I said, right? She was hurt because people aren't taking her seriously. This is the world we're in right now. Mind you, people are saying that this is unconstitutional. And she's saying, the AI minister is saying, that people are wrong for saying that this is unconstitutional. And get this, Albanian parliament is fully backing her. This is where we at right now. I'm out.
They found a way to make gold.
Oh,
Just
yeah?
like you could make a diamond in a lab. The problem, however,
It costs more to make the gold than the gold is worth, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
but the other is that the gold was very unstable, and so they were only able to be a solid form for a short amount of time before it disappeared.
But imagine if that were to happen. The inflation of gold would increase, and therefore the value would be suppressed.
You think the Appalachian Mountains are scary? Wait till those things get in your house. That's why there are rules. Lock your door, close your curtains, never reply when something calls your name. But what does it look like when these creatures actually get in your house? It looks a lot like this. I'm getting ready to show you what this lady experienced in her Appalachian home when something like a mimic that sounds like her calls for her, and just a lot of creepy stuff. Tell me what you think in the comments. Have a great day. God bless.
Here I go to bed myself. What the fuck is that? What? Oh, God! Fuck! Fuck. Too scared to open my door. Come here. In here. Come here. Come here. Come here. I told you.
How many people know this, but a horror movie came out in the 1970s that was so realistic that its director was arrested for murder, and the story just gets way crazier from there. In the late 1970s, Italian horror director Ruggero Deodato went out to the Amazon rainforest and shot a movie called Cannibal Holocaust, which was the story of a documentary crew going out to the Amazon rainforest, disappearing, and then authorities finding the footage and seeing that they were massacred and eaten by a tribe of cannibals. The movie is considered one of the very first found footage horror films and also one of the most violent and gory movies of all time. And aside from the fact that it contains some pretty racially insensitive depictions of Brazilian indigenous tribes, it also apparently had such good special effects in its violence and gore that many people thought that it was a snuff film, like an actual real-life documentary of people being murdered. So much so that in 1980, when the movie premiered in Milan, Italy, within 10 days, every copy of the film was confiscated by Italian authorities, and Ruggero was arrested for killing the actors in the film. Deodato was arrested for murder, obscenity, and animal cruelty, which I'll get to later. But the craziest thing is that the reason why people thought he killed these actors is because of his own marketing gimmick. He had all the actors in the movie sign a contract agreeing to not appear publicly for a year after the movie's release to maintain the illusion that it was a real found footage documentary and not a fictional movie. And so because all these actors had contractually disappeared from public life, authorities thought that they were all actually missing and presumed dead. He had to get in contact with all the actors in the film and get them to agree to show up to prove that they were all alive and well. And once that happened, all the murder charges were dropped against him. However, just because Deodato didn't actually kill any real people doesn't mean that he wasn't guilty of a crime. He was still charged with obscenity and animal cruelty because there were actually several real killings of animals in the film, including a snake, a monkey, a pig, and a tarantula. The movie went on to be banned in over 50 countries throughout the world in the 1980s and gained an infamy as one of the most controversial films of all time. But in the 90s, it was reevaluated by horror fans and became somewhat of a cult classic. In recent years, Ruggero Deodato has expressed regret at the animal killings that were featured in the movie, though in my opinion, it's kind of too little too late. But he still maintains that the film is a triumph in a fight against censorship. So what do you think? Have you seen the movie? And do you think that the special effects are so realistic that you could be tricked into thinking that this dude really killed people? Let me know. And real quick, if you like my videos and you want to see more in-depth writing from me, you can do that here.
You know what? I think that, yeah, he went too far. He definitely went too far. You don't want to get to the point where you're getting arrested. I feel like that's when you know you went too far. It should be just good enough to where people believe it but understand that it's fake, but not so good that you're going to jail for it. You know what I'm saying?
The alarming scene on Interstate 59 in Mississippi, a truck carrying research monkeys possibly infected from hepatitis to COVID crashing on the highway. Here's Mola Lengi.
Tonight, the urgent search for dangerous research monkeys that escaped from the wreckage of a crash on a Mississippi highway.
We got 21 monkeys that was on this, got 5 of them on the run.
Video showing several monkeys crawling in the grass. Heavily armed officers responding to the scene. Authorities say a truck carrying nearly 24 rhesus monkeys from Tulane University overturned on Interstate 59 in Jasper County.
Here's one of the monkeys right here. There's one sitting right there.
At least 6 monkeys escaping, officials warning they might be aggressive towards people and were potentially infected with hepatitis C, herpes, and COVID.
They may have to neutralize something out here in a minute.
And late today, police confirming all but one of the escaped monkeys have been euthanized for public safety reasons, adding they're still actively searching for that one monkey still on the loose. Well, David, the monkeys that did not escape from the truck are said to be okay and accounted for, David. All right, Mola Langington.
Hey, is it just me, or does it seem like every time they have these lab animals like on the highway or in some kind of box container, man, they always seem to have some kind of accident? Like it just seems like a rerun of some sorts, right? Or is it just me? Let me know.
We were in a simulation. I really do think David Icke nails it. He told the whole truth. He gave the whole game out 8 years ago, 10 years ago. Even when I asked David Icke after a 6-year absence, I say, what's the most recent thing that's blown your mind? He doesn't really have anything because he already reached the bottom, which basically is that this is a captured world. We are all fractals of the supreme consciousness.
There are currently 2,331 U.S. inmates waiting to be put to death. The average length of time a prisoner is on death row is 16 years. Here's what the last 24 hours before execution look like. Around 8 o'clock on the night prior to execution, the prisoner is taken from their cell to a cell closer to the execution chamber.
The Demon Core was one of the most dangerous things that humans have ever made. This 6-kilogram sphere made of plutonium was originally manufactured as a part of the Manhattan Project, specifically to be the heart of the third bomb used on Japan. But after Japan surrendered and the war was over, the need for a third bomb was eliminated, and the core was repurposed for scientific research. It took its first life on August 21st, 1945, when Harry Daghlian was experimenting on it, trying to determine the critical mass of plutonium. In doing so, he accidentally dropped a brick onto the core, causing it to go critical. There was a flash of blue light, and 25 days later, he passed from radiation poisoning. Less than a year later, Louis Slotin was doing a similar experiment, except this time using a beryllium shell. He propped it open using a screwdriver, which ended up slipping, causing the core to go critical. Slotin quickly separated the shell, but it was too late. He looked at everyone else in the room and said, well, that does it. And 9 days later, the Demon Core claimed its second victim.
There's something wild to think about. When we get lab testing like blood work done, we see what's either unhealthy or normal ranges. But the normal ranges are trained on a population of mostly unhealthy people, which can skew the data. And that explains why so many people get so-called normal results, but still feel like crap. Either A, normal isn't what you think it is, or B, your conventional provider isn't looking in the right area. If you want to talk to a provider that understands these things, go to renewwellnessclub.com, click book now. Your first appointment is free.
Dictionary.com announcing the word of the year.
It's actually a number, 6'7". The term is widely used by teens. It means not clear. 6'7" is also a way of saying so, maybe this or maybe that.
There's all this technology which is sold to police departments of just like cool gadgets. And a lot of those end up somewhere on the internet, right? And one of those things that ends up on the internet is this gadget where police cars have like a mounted tracking device. They'll shoot into victims' cars to track their car in a police chase. And we found a way to just get full admin access to that. The fun hypothetical is like, say you're a criminal, you can like click a button, disable it. But like we got access to this like administrative dashboard where it's just like all these devices and all these police cars, and you can see which ones have been deployed, not deployed. And then there's just tons of like interesting APIs and stuff with like police forces that you could hack and report vulnerabilities to.
What the? Hey, I'm pretty sure that's happened to everybody. You ever just drop something and have it just disappear? Especially like some change or something like that, or some keys, man. That's universal.
Did you see the fallen angel on the Joe Rogan show?
Constructed this so that if we ever lost our way, we could find our way back. In the Minimalist Faith, that's her name.
It's as tall as an 8-story building, and it's the national monument to the forefathers. That's a fallen angel. Just like they were told in the book of Enoch, you can't go home again. As soon as I saw that angel, it took me 2 seconds to realize where I'd seen him before. And it wasn't anything to do with our forefathers. It had to do with the richest man in the world, George Vanderbilt. Let's go to Asheville and see the Vanderbilt estates. Come on, you're going to know that they carved these statues on Mount Hermon, right in the middle of Asheville. He just said that our forefathers made this so that if we lost our way, we could find our way back. The star on the forehead was one thing. The finger pointing up in the air, that was another. But when he said they were trying to get back, that's when it hit me. Because you guys can't go home again. I took this picture last year in Asheville. It's that sign right there that's going to get you. This placard right here discusses the angel and the...
You can see them! Nope. Nope, I didn't see anything. And I suggest you act like you didn't see anything either. That's a no thank you from way over here.
To enter into what turned out to be a blood pact with Satan. I had to petition, I had to write what I wanted to happen. And I had to petition that to Satan and then bring it upon myself. So at this point, I'm now really, really cursing myself. The previous one was a charm given to me by someone else.
Right.
But this one was me really asking for it. And that's where we get into that psychology again. Now I've really brought this onto myself. So whether it is Satan doing what Satan likes to do, or whether or not it's me doing it to myself, I'm deep in this now. And yeah, definitely life began to get a lot harder.
Thank you, God, for your covering. Because who's that walking behind me, y'all? Who is that walking behind me? There's no cars behind me. Look, there's no cars behind me. Who's that? And he's walking. Look.
Oh, nah. See, I can't be dealing with a Tesla car if that's what's going to be happening, right? Because, like, that's pretty creepy. She's on the highway.
It can be way too open. If you don't learn how to shut it off, it's possible that you are constantly being bombarded with them trying to speak to someone who is alive. All the voices are coming at you one time. That's crazy making. That's dangerous. For anyone who starts having or wants to be more psychic or become a medium, because now they're picking up things themselves.
The creator of the Satanic Church, Anton LaVey, a quote by him, and I fact-checked this, and I could not believe this came out of his mouth. He actually wants to thank all Christian parents for allowing their child to worship the devil at least one night a year. And he also said the most important holiday to them, aside from one's own birthday, is Halloween.
As soon as something touches my tongue, as soon as I can taste it.
That's how tongues work, Tyra. You're not. Go back to sleep. Go back to sleep. You're not done. You're not ready to be awake yet. You're not special. I need a Snickers. I need a Snickers. That's what it is. I need a Snickers.
We got Terrence Howard, who said that he invites spirits in him to play out different characters. Taraji P. Henson said it too. Woody McClain, I just did a story on him. Dames and Idris said he was calling on the devil when he reached a roadblock in acting, for crying out loud. You know, and then when the movie was over, he couldn't get it out. He couldn't get it out. He called his mom. He had nightmares. You think that these spirits are going to leave once the movie's done?
Mm-hmm.
Fools. But, you know, people like Jay-Z and Beyonce and stuff like that, they come into a place where it's definitely witchcraft, right? Jay-Z said in his song Family Feud, I told my wife the spiritual stuff really works. And he also said in his song State of Empire that Jesus can't save you. Life starts when the church ends. So right there, those two lines, we understand that he's not talking about Christ when he's talking about the spiritual stuff. Beyonce herself, she has a whole Lemonade album. And if you watch different videos of it, she's in water. Then there's a part in the video where the door opens and water comes out. She's showing us that she's being born again into whatever she is, which we understand that she worshiped the deity Oshun, right? Which is a part of the Ifa religion, you know? And their god is Aludamari. Not only that, but they also have another deity named Ashu, which is the deity that connects them to the spiritual, okay? We understand it says in the word of God that there's only one mediator from man and God, and that's Christ Jesus. But to them, it's Ashu that connects the man to God, the creator, which is Aludamari for them, right? She's a part of the Ifa religion. A lot of people in the music industry is a part of the Ifa religion. 21 Savage, you got Kehlani, you got Summer Walker, you got Beyonce.
I don't think I've ever heard of this. Is it something that, like, it's if you know kind of thing? I mean, it seems like almost like an industry kept secret, this religion.
It's like African ancestry type stuff.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's very big within Hollywood, though. As far as like African Americans are involved, it's coming out now. you know, because I'm talking about it a lot, you know, and different people are starting to talk about it a lot. You got people who are, you know, very dedicated. They do altars. You know, they set up altars where they give different deities food and fruit and say happy birthday to these deities. It's pretty big. I mean, different celebrities are starting to post more about it, but it's deception.
Yeah.
And it's in its highest degree. Beyonce used to be a Christian.
Yeah.
You know, but her drummer, Kimberly Thompson, filed a restraining order on her for extreme witchcraft. Her drummer of 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, out of all the lawsuits in the world, extreme witchcraft? Really?
If what just happened in China goes worldwide, it would change everything. China had just passed a new law making it compulsory for content creators and influencers to hold a professional qualification if they want to discuss that topic on their channel. So for example, if you're creating content around what they deem as a sensitive topic, we're talking finance, medicine, law, or education, you must prove that you are formally educated in that field. So like a degree or a diploma. And interestingly, it's actually up to the social media platforms to enforce this and ensure that their creators have provided the relevant qualifications. Otherwise, they will face fines. And not only that, but this new law will also require influencers to clearly state what studies and what sources they are using for their content, as well as to clearly indicate when AI is used. Now, the reason for all of this, according to the Cyberspace Administration of China, is to prevent misinformation from spreading on social media and in turn protect the public from following detrimental advice. And while some people are applauding this as a needed move, others argue that this is just more concentrated control, there'll be less freedom of expression, and that it's an attack on independent voices and debate. Is this something that more countries should adopt or not?
Know that the more you go through, the less empathy you have. So you would think, let's say you've been through your hardships, you would think that because you've been through that stuff, you would have more empathy. But as you rise through the ranks, you actually have less empathy because you've been through it, you've overcome it, and you kind of look at people like, can you please get it together? And if you think about it, it makes sense because it's like, get through this. I've gotten through this. Whereas if you're dealing with someone who hasn't gone through it or is in the lower ranks at work, they've got more empathy. Because also think of it too, as you're going up in business, you're dealing with so many more people. You don't have the cognitive space or load to deal with everybody's stuff.
As sad as that sounds, or maybe even as crazy as that sounds, it's absolutely true, man. It's weird how it ends up like that, but it does end up like that.
There was no flies, there was no people, there was just no noise pollution whatsoever. I said to him, can you imagine how quiet, how silent it's going to be in the Gobi Desert? And he replied, he just said, there's no such thing as silence. So what do you mean there's no such thing as silence? They have like silence rooms, torture, panic rooms, silence rooms with the headphones and whatnot. And he was like, I'm not going to tell you, you'll get out there and if you've hit the right spot of the Gobi Desert, you'll know what I mean. And I did. I remember I was just, again, in the middle of the Gobi Desert. I hadn't seen anyone in days. And there was no breeze, there was no flies, there was no people, there was just no noise pollution whatsoever. And I was just looking around. I could just hear this faint noise, almost like a high-pitched humming noise. Very faint, though. And I thought it could be like air leaking from my water container. It could be my trailer. So I walked a few hundred meters away from my trailer and I could still hear it. It took me 5 to 10 minutes to figure it out. That it was like I'm at such the point of silence now. It's so quiet. I can hear my own body functioning. And that's what he meant, that there's no such thing as silence. Because when you're at the point of silence, you can finally hear your own body ticking over.
I like my silence just as much as the next man, but that seems like it might be a bit much for me. I ain't gonna lie to you. Well, you guys say that's another one in the books, man. Hey, I appreciate you guys for stopping by yet again and watching another one with me. If you haven't already, smash that like button, man. Smash that. Hit the subscribe button. Join the iTrack family if you're not already a part of it. And if you're looking to jump into a few more rabbit holes, you'll see them pop up right here, man. Yeah, I'll catch you on the next one.